Chapter 94. 5 days of crazy spring offensive operations brought Shanghai Town a lot of rewards. First was the population. A total of 1,967 people were added, of which 868 were combatants and 1,099 were non-combatants. It had long surpassed the town's population limit of 5,000. Ouyang Shuo had to send some of the captives to Beihai Town and Pool Town. Out of the 868 combatants, 18 were executed for their heinous crimes, 600 were integrated into the army, and the remaining 250 were sent to the mines for a year. The Navy was divided into 3 companies from the captives and officially formed the Navy camp, with the intermediate General Pei Dong as the battalion commander. The first company's captain was Zhou Feng, the second company's captain was Yu Feng, and the third company's captain was Li Hai. The remaining 2 company captains were not appointed yet. Li Hai was a beginner general and was the most outstanding one among the pirates. Plus, the residents had a good impression of him, so Ouyang Shuo promoted him to company captain. The cavalry was divided into 3 companies and officially formed the Shanghai Town Cavalry Camp, with the intermediate General Lin Yi as the battalion commander. The first company's captain was Li Mingliang, the second company's captain was Sun Tangjiao, the third company's captain was Liao Kai, the fourth company's captain was Guo Liang, and the fifth company's captain was Su Wang. Su Wang was a junior general as well, and he was an elite figure in the large bandit camp. He had an upright character and was untainted by mud. After Ouyang Shuo understood the situation, he decisively promoted Su Wang to be a platoon leader. As for the infantry, Ouyang Shuo didn't plan to expand yet. According to his plan, he still hoped to absorb quality soldiers from the mountain barbarian tribes. To make it easier to command, he gave the infantry a battalion, with Shi Wansui as the battalion commander. There were only the original 3 companies for now. The other big reward was naturally the funds. The cash they got, plus the money from selling the blueprints, amounted to 2,550 gold. After deducting the military and general fees, there were 1,710 gold left. Ouyang Shuo didn't have a specific plan on how to use the funds. The most important thing now was to upgrade the territory to a 3rd-level town. The population had already reached the upper limit, but the alchemy workshop in the 2nd-level town was still not being built. As Ouyang Shuo expected, the most troublesome thing was that damned alchemist. Shanghai Town was such a strong territory, but there wasn't a single alchemist after so long. He didn't know what kind of luck Di-Chin had, but he managed to get an alchemist within half a month. In the end, it was Fan Zhongyan who reminded him and said, "Your Highness, if I remember correctly, the talent recruitment center in the territory can randomly recruit a special talent every month. My lord hasn't used the quota for March yet, right? Why don't you give it a try?" Ouyang Shuo nodded, but he didn't have much hope. He bitterly smiled and said, "How could there be such a coincidence in this world? We just happen to be able to recruit an alchemist that we urgently need. How would we know if we don't try?" Fan Zhongyan insisted. "All right, then I'll make a trip." Ouyang Shuo finally compromised. This was the 2nd time Ouyang Shuo had entered the recruitment hall. Last time, the recruitment hall had offered him 2 talents, Fan Zhongyan and Du Chun. He wondered if they could help the Shanghai Town this time. System notice. Congratulations to player who has no clothes for opening the recruitment hall. You only have 1 chance to recruit a special talent. Do you want to recruit? Recruitment. System notice. Congratulations to player who has no clothes for successfully recruiting a special talent, an advanced alchemist. 10 gold coins automatically deducted. A ray of white light flashed, and a 30-year-old European walked out from the teleportation array. He bowed towards Ouyang Shuo in a Western medieval noble etiquette, saying warmly, "Magnus pays his respects to your lordship." "Huh, the heavens really bless me. I really managed to recruit an alchemist." Ouyang Shuo was indescribably surprised. He smiled and said, "Mr. Magnus, welcome to the Shanghai Town." What happened next was simple. With the full effort of the construction division, the alchemy workshop was built in just 1 day. The advanced alchemist Magnus from the West, Magnus, had officially moved in. In this way, the last obstacle to the level 3 town had been completely swept away. 24th March, 9 in the morning, Shanghai Town's conference hall. Ouyang Shi muttered in his heart for the territory to level up. With a swoosh, a white light flashed, and a golden stone tablet slowly rose from the ground in the middle of the conference hall. He pressed his right hand on the front of the stone tablet, and the system notification rang out. System notice, testing the level-up requirements for the Shanghai town. Requirement 1. The population has reached the population limit of 5,000 people. Requirements met. Requirement 2. All the basic structures have been completed. Requirements met. Requirement 3. The Lord must be at least a first-rank Viscount. Requirements met. System notice. Congratulations to player who says that has closed for establishing Shanghai Town. All the level-up requirements have been met. Do you want to level up? Level up. On the stone tablet, a golden light shot up into the sky and exploded in the air, turning into a golden halo that spread in all directions. The halo continued to extend to the new edge of the territory before disappearing again. System announcement. Congratulations to player who says that has closed for becoming the second lord of the town in the China server to level up to a level 3 town. Reward. 1,000 achievement points. System announcement. Congratulations to player who says that has closed for becoming the second lord of the town in the China server to level up to a level 3 town. Reward. 1,000 achievement points. System announcement. Congratulations to player who says that has closed for becoming the second lord of a town in the China server to level up to a level 3 town. Reward. 1,000 achievement points. It had been a week since Di Chen's Handan town had leveled up to a level 3 town. Shanghai town had just leveled up. No matter what, it had at least dealt a blow to the suspicions from before. The battle for the world's #1 county had officially begun. System announcement. Congratulations to player who says that has closed for becoming a level 3 town. Town Lord's Mansion has automatically leveled up. 3 level 3 basic buildings have been randomly selected. Player may choose one of them. System announcement. 3 buildings have been randomly selected. They are an inn, a pawn shop, and an accessory shop. Please choose. Choose the pawn shop. System announcement. Building is being automatically generated. Please check for yourself. A white light flashed, and the golden stone tablet slowly sank into the ground again. Ouyang Shi took the opportunity to check the stats of Shanghai Town. Territory, Shanghai Town, level 3 town. Lord, who says it has closed, level 2 Earl. Title, world's #1 town. Increases territory popularity by 20. Popular support. 92 public security, 91 territory population. 5,000/10,000 refugee spawn rate. 50, 1 plus 50, equals 75 refugees per day, territory area. 1,000 square kilometers, territory characteristics. Refugee attraction rate increased by 50. Special talent attraction rate increased by 25. Crop production rate increased by 50. Production. Type residence skill proficiency increased by 25. Army soldier level increased by 20. Territory talent breakthrough success rate increased by 10. Affiliated villages. North Sea Town, level 1 town. Pool Town, level 1 town. Territory capital. Four Seas Bank, Territory Association. Textile Association, Territory Resources. Intermediate Lumberyard, Intermediate Quarry, Intermediate Mining. Advanced Brick Kiln, Territory Army. Cavalry Battalion, Infantry Battalion, Navy Battalion. Pool Town Garrison Platoon. Territory Industry. North Twilight Salt Field, 5,000 acres. Wolf Mountain Mine, Political Index. 50 out of 100 determines administrative. Efficiency relates to popular support. Economic Index. 45 out of 100 determines trade prosperity, relates to tax revenue. Culture Index. 40 out of 100 determines education, relates to the quality of residence. Military Index. 50 out of 100 determines military strength, relates to stable relationships, basic buildings. Town Lord's Mansion, toilet, granary, cemetery, relay station, agricultural buildings, farmland, mill, mulberry garden, orchard, vegetable field, herb garden, commercial buildings. Intermediate market, intermediate blacksmith shop, intermediate grocery store, advanced woodworking workshop, advanced medical center, advanced martial arts school, advanced tailor shop, clothing workshop, intermediate pottery factory, large brewing workshop, farmer's market, vinegar brewing workshop, soy sauce workshop, bean curd workshop, pharmacy, small textile factory, advanced alchemy workshop, cultural buildings, town ancestral hall, town private school, Lianzhou Academy military, buildings, advanced military camp, city wall, moat, city tower, arrow tower, corner tower, stone sentry tower, stable, weapon workshop, arsenal special buildings, ferry, dock, intermediate shipyard, hidden buildings, Mazu temple, sealed, recruitment hall list of basic buildings, frowny face Taoist temple, a place where Taoists cultivate. Construction requirement, Taoist temple building blueprint, 2,000 units of wood, 3,000 units of green bricks, 1,000 units of stone. Construction time, 4 days, pawn shop, an institution that collects movable and immovable property as collateral to lend money to others. Construction requirement, merchant, pawn shop building blueprint, 1,000 units of wood, 2,000 units of green bricks, 1,000 units of stone. Construction time, 3 days, description. This building will be automatically generated. A place for people who are away on a long journey to stay. Construction requirement, merchant, in building blueprint, 2,000 units of wood, 3,000 units of green bricks, 1,000 units of stone. Construction time, for days, restaurant, a shop that provides banquets. Construction requirement, advanced chef, restaurant, building blueprint, 2,000 units of wood, for 1,000 units of green bricks, 1,000 units of stone. Construction time, 5 days, jewelry shop, a shop that sells gold and silver jewelry. Construction requirement, gold and silver craftsman, jewelry building blueprint, 1,000 units of wood, 2,000 units of green bricks, 1,000 units of stone. Construction time, 3 days, tea garden, planting tea leaves. Construction requirement, tea tree, 2,000 units of wood, 500 units of green bricks, 500 units of stone. Construction time, 2 days. Chapter 95. Ouyang Shuo was deep in thought after checking the attributes of the territory. The upper limit of a level 3 town was 10,000 people. Normally, it would take 2 months for Shanghai town to reach full population again. The territory was upgraded in advance and doubled in size. The third step of the spring offensive, which was to suppress bandits outside the borders, had to be changed to suppress bandits inside the territory. Fortunately, the information collected by the Military Intelligence Department could still be used. In terms of territory index, the cultural index was still the weakest link. During this time, there were still a few scholars among the newly spawned refugees. Ouyang Shuo arranged for them to go to Lianzhou Academy. Under Su Shuda's leadership, Lianzhou Academy was on the right track. It was no longer the grassroots organization it had been when it was first established. During the spring offensive, the moat project had been completed. The arrow towers and turrets on the city walls had also been completed and put into use. The initial construction of Shanghai town's military defense system had been completed. The basic building materials of the level 3 town had been automatically updated to mainly green bricks, supplemented by wood and stone. Of course, as an ancient building, wood was still an important component. The carved railings and painted rafters were all inseparable from it. Among the 6 buildings, the pawn shop had been automatically generated. There was no need to pay attention to it. The tea garden didn't need blueprints. It only needed to find wild tea trees in the wild and transplant them. It was similar to the mulberry garden. The blueprints of the remaining 4 buildings, the Taoist temple, the inn, the restaurant, and the jewelry shop, had all been seized during the spring offensive a few days ago, saving 400 gold coins for the blueprints. Ouyang Shuo had already promised to let Gu Sanyang manage the restaurant. The inn and the jewelry shop were relatively simple. They could be built immediately since there were special talents in the territory. The most troublesome thing was the Taoist temple. It needed at least a Taoist priest to manage it. In the previous timeline, many lords used a shortcut, and that was to replace the lords with players. Among the combat professions of the players, there were Taoist priests, so it was barely acceptable. 10 o'clock in the morning, in the mayor's office of the Lord's mansion. Sir, after nearly a month of arduous investigation, the Military Intelligence Department has obtained basic information about the nomadic tribes in the middle of Lianzhou Basin and the green beetle horses. The one who spoke was a middle-aged man with a determined face. He looked ordinary at first glance. He was another big shot of the Military Intelligence Department, Lei Sun. After the expansion of the Military Intelligence Department, apart from the 10 internal affairs personnel, the remaining 40 people were divided into the 1st and 2nd military intelligence teams. Lung Qian was the leader of Military Intelligence Team 1, while Lei Sun was the leader of Military Intelligence Team 2. Ouyang Shua's heart shook. Tell me, what's the situation? Nomadic tribes exist in the form of a large tribe and a dozen small and medium-sized tribes. The large tribe was called the Sky Order Tribe, with more than 30,000 people. It was located in the center of the basin and occupied the best pastures. There was an inland lake in the center of the basin. The Sky's End tribe called it the Blessed Lake. The tribe's royal court was built beside the Blessed Lake. The rest of the smaller tribes have a few hundred to a few thousand people scattered around the basin. Lei Sun reported. Which tribes are closest to us? Ouyang Shua asked. There are 3 tribes closest to us, located in the west, middle, and east. The tribes in the east and west direction were both small tribes with less than 1,000 people. The tribe in the middle is more powerful. It is a medium-sized tribe with more than 3,000 people. How are the relationships between these tribes? Small and medium-sized tribes often have conflicts because of fighting over pastures, and the Sky's Limit tribe is needed to mediate. Interestingly, in order to maintain their position, the Sky Order tribe would often suppress medium-sized tribes in the dark and support small tribes instead. Because of this, there has never been a tribe with more than 10,000 people in the center of the basin. This kind of long-term suppression has already caused dissatisfaction among many medium-sized tribes. But because of the difference in strength between the two sides, they had no choice but to swallow their anger. Therefore, generally speaking, the small tribes are close to the Sky Order tribe, while the medium-sized tribes form their own alliances. Lei Sun replied. Ouyang Shua nodded and said, What's the situation with the green beetle horses? The situation is not good. The green beetle horses are almost completely controlled by these nomadic tribes, and it is very difficult to find wild horses. If we want to obtain green beetle horses, we can only do it through war or trade. Lei Sun said bitterly. If it's trade, is it feasible? Ouyang Shua asked uncertainly. These grassland tribes lack iron products, salt, tea, and other daily necessities. Some tribes even lack food. Therefore, in theory, there's a possibility of trade. Of course, the prerequisite is that we have enough strength to defend against their attacks. These nomadic tribes have a strong attacking nature. If they can rob, they will definitely not buy. Lei Sun did not waste this month and knew the nomadic tribes very well. Ouyang Shua lightly tapped the table with his hand, remaining silent. According to his original plan, after upgrading to a 3rd-ranked town, the last subsidiary territory was to be built at the junction of the Friendship River and Xiushui River as a bridgehead to attack the center of the basin. But from information Lei Sun had gathered, there was a risk of being robbed by the nomadic tribes at any time if the subsidiary territory was built there. What gave him a headache was that if he wanted to build a radiant armor heavy cavalry unit, the normal war horses given by the system would not be enough. He had to get green beetle horses. If he did not build a strong bridgehead, he would not feel at ease sending his troops to the other side of the river. If they were discovered by the nomadic tribes, it would be too late to retreat. Even if he did not build a bridgehead and try to trade with them in the name of Shanghai Town, it would still be very dangerous. Rashly exposing Shanghai Town to these wild wolves was tantamount to asking a tiger for its skin. Just as Lei Sun had said, these nomadic tribes had a habit of robbing. If they could rob, they would definitely not buy. This time, he was really in a dilemma. Since he could not make up his mind, he could only listen to the opinions of others. Ouyang Shua asked Lei Sun to wait for a moment and asked the gatekeeper to invite the 4 directors over, saying that he had something important to discuss with them. 20 minutes later, the 4 directors arrived one after another. Ouyang Shua first let Lei Sun introduce the information he had just reported. Then he told them his thoughts and asked, What countermeasures do you have? Big brother. Little sister thinks that in this situation, we should temporarily put the green beetle horses on hold. In any case, the production efficiency of the radiant armor is not high, and it will take some time to equip the cavalry unit. Currently, the most important thing for the territory is how to promote it to a first-rank county. It won't be too late to make plans after the promotion. Ing Pomo stood on the side of the Finance Bureau and expressed her opinion first. Following that, Fan Zhongyan also expressed his opinion, saying, I agree with Director Chui's opinion. The nomadic tribes are all soldiers, and the current military strength of Shanghai Town is not enough to contend against them. For now, the best plan is to stay still and stop them. Seeing that two directors had agreed to put the green beetle horses on hold, Gu Hongliang, as the military representative, could not sit still and was about to voice his objection. Unexpectedly, Tian Wenjing, who was sitting beside him, suddenly stood up and said loudly, My lord, I have a different opinion. Sir, please speak. In truth, Ouyang Shua also did not want to put the green beetle horses on hold. Building a heavy cavalry unit would not only help to increase the territory's military strength, but would also be helpful for the important matter in the near future. Hearing Tian Wenjing's objection, he immediately became spirited. This cold-faced director usually did not say anything, but when he did, he always said something meaningful. I think that not only must we build the bridgehead, we must also do it quickly. While the nomadic tribes on the other side of the river are still unaware of us, we must quickly plant a wedge on the other side. Otherwise, we will wait until the other side notices. If they set up a garrison on the other side of the river, then it will be even more difficult for us to advance into the center of the basin in the future, and we will completely lose the strategic advantage. Tian Wenjing said firmly. Fan Zhongyan asked in reply, What Director Tian said seems to make sense. But have you thought about how to build a subsidiary territory without the other side noticing? This is not something that can be done in a day or two. Moreover, even if the subsidiary territory is successfully built with its weak defense, how can it withstand the invasion of the nomadic tribes? I'm afraid that after spending a large amount of manpower and resources, it will still be a wasted effort. Tian Wenjing replied confidently, Director Fan's problem is actually very easy to solve. Since it is a bridgehead, then we naturally cannot build it according to the conventional construction of a subsidiary village. We need to build this subsidiary territory into a military fortress. The first step is to build a sturdy stone wall like the headquarters. After the wall is built, we can start the internal construction. This way, as long as we station a small number of troops inside the fortress, it will be enough to withstand the invasion of the nomadic tribes. These nomadic tribes are used to fighting cavalry battles in open areas and are not good at sieging cities. They don't even have the most basic siege weapons. That's right. I suggest that we station the cavalry battalion in the subsidiary territory to provide support. Together with the garrison of the subsidiary territory, it will be enough to ensure the safety of the subsidiary territory. Gu Hongliang continued. He did not expect Tian Wenjing to have such a strategic vision. Even as the director of military affairs, he did not think that deeply. Just now, he only subconsciously felt that he should speak out against it. Otherwise, he would miss a good opportunity. As for the specific operation, he did not have a complete idea. Now, Tian Wenjing had given a perfect solution. Inyu was not proficient in military affairs, so she did not speak up. After Fan Zhongyan, who had spoken out against it, listened to Tian Wenjing's explanation, he seemed to be thinking about it, which was a tacit agreement. Since the four directors had reached an agreement, Ouyang Shua no longer hesitated. He said, Very well, we will follow what Director Tian said and start building the third subsidiary territory tomorrow. Chapter 96. After reaching an agreement on the strategy, the next step was to discuss the candidate for the subsidiary territory's chief officer. The third subsidiary territory will be named after Friendship. It will suit the geographical location of the Friendship River and also show our goodwill. For these nomadic tribes, before we have the ability to subdue them, it is best to be friendly and do business with them. Compared to North Sea Town and Pool Town, the future Friendship Town will be more challenging. Therefore, it is very important to choose a suitable chief officer. This chief officer must be well-versed in government affairs and provide logistical support for the troops stationed there. At the same time, he must have strong adaptability. After all, it is across the river from the headquarters, and the external situation is so serious that the headquarters cannot respond in time every time. Do any of you have a suitable candidate to recommend? Ouyang Shua asked. This was the first time Ouyang Shua sought the opinions of the directors on the candidate for the subsidiary territory's chief officer. Previously in North Sea Town and Pool Town, he had acted on his own and made his own decisions. Indeed, this time, Ouyang Shua did not have a candidate that he liked. Among the 4 directors, Gu Hongliang was the most relaxed. He had only recently joined Shanghai Town and belonged to the military. Naturally, he could not recommend any talent. The other 3 directors hesitated for a moment. There were pros and cons to this matter of recommendation. If the recommendation was right, it would be a happy ending. However, if the recommended person was useless and made a mistake in the future, the person who recommended would have to bear the responsibility. The finance department was a more professional administrative department, and the various department chief officers were just appointed. It was really difficult to find a person who could take charge of the overall situation. Therefore, Yingyu was the first to shake her head, indicating that she had no one to recommend. The Resource Reserve Department was similar to the Finance Department. The allocation of the department chief officers was relatively low, and they were all from grassroots backgrounds. Controlling one department was already their limit, so how could they be the chief officer of a subsidiary territory? The only outstanding one was the salt field director, Shun Jue. However, as he was still inexperienced, Tian Wenjing still shook his head and rejected him. The most likely candidate was the administrative department. Not only did the administrative department have many departments, but the allocation of the directors of each department was also relatively high. There were even a few directors who were born as high scholars. Fan Zhongyin was also a little hesitant. He had 2 candidates in mind, namely the director's assistant, Qin Shijian, and the director of household registration, Zhou Haichen. These 2 young men were both very outstanding. One was in charge of the overall situation, while the other was independent. Each had their own advantages and disadvantages, and it was really difficult to choose. I recommend Qin Shijian and Zhou Haichen. As for who to choose, I'll leave it to my lord to decide. In the end, Fan Zhongyin kicked the ball back to Ouyang Shua. Ouyang Shua nodded. Both of them were within his range of candidates, so it didn't exceed his expectations. However, in this case, he still had to make the decision himself. In fact, he also knew that between the 2 of them, Fan Zhongyin might not necessarily have no preference. It was just that this kind of personnel arrangement was too sensitive, and Fan Zhongyin couldn't interfere too deeply, so he played Tai Chi with him. And you saw that Ouyang Shua was in a dilemma and snickered. Ouyang Shua glared at her and said, I'll choose Zhou Haichen. Du Quan, the former Assistant Director General of the Department of Household Registration, was promoted to Director General to replace the vacancy left by Zhou Haichen. Qin Shijian's position had to be moved as well. After being the assistant to the director for so long, it was time for him to gain some experience in the department office. Appoint him as the Director General of the Department of Merit Examinations. Mr. Sven can take off this burden and take charge of the overall situation. In the end, Ouyang Shua still chose Zhou Haichen from the perspective of succession. Once Zhou Haichen left, Du Quan could quickly fill the position. On the other hand, if Qin Shijian was transferred, it would cause the Department of Household Registration to have a surplus of talents and the Department of Merit Examinations to have a shortage of talents. Towards Ouyang Shua's combination of personnel, the 4 directors seemed to be deep in thought. Through this series of personnel adjustments, they tried to clearly see the Lord's direction in using people. As for how much they could comprehend, or what they could comprehend, it was up to the benevolent to see benevolence, and the wise to see wisdom. After discussing the candidates for the subsidiary territory's chief officials, Ouyang Shua announced that the meeting was adjourned. As for the specific construction issues, he planned to gather the chief officials of each department in the afternoon to make arrangements. 2 o'clock in the afternoon, the Lord's Mansion's meeting hall. Ouyang Shua gathered the departments related to the construction of the subsidiary territory, including the Department of Household Registration, the Construction Department, the Resource Department, the Carriage Department, and the soon-to-be Zhou Haichun together for a discussion. Regarding the construction of the Friendship Village, Ouyang Shua first expressed his opinion and said, considering the future position of the Friendship Village, the city wall will be a square with a side length of 2 kilometers. It will also be 9 meters tall and 5 meters wide. The headquarters must participate in the construction of the city wall. The construction department must increase the manpower and strive to build the city wall within a week. Otherwise, there will be changes if we delay. Zhao Duong nodded to indicate that there was no problem. The construction this time was only half that of the headquarters. With enough manpower, a week's time was more than enough. The most difficult part would probably be transporting the stones across the river. The residents that will be sent to the Friendship Village this time must also be carefully selected. The ordinary residents are mainly herdsmen. The future military horse farm will be built in the Friendship Village, so we need to prepare in advance. In terms of skilled personnel, we need to specifically select some mid-level and above skilled personnel, such as blacksmiths and merchants. Ouyang Shua continued. Du Quan, the newly appointed head of the census department, nodded to indicate that he understood. He asked cautiously, Sir, how many residents will be sent to the Friendship Village this time? Let's control the population of a third-rank village with 1,000 people. Among this batch of people, we need to select 200 people to form the Friendship Village Garrison Squadron. You need to coordinate with the military regarding this. Ouyang Shua instructed. Understood. Ouyang Shua looked at Du Xiaolan and said, the resource department must make preparations in advance to trade with the nomadic tribes. Set up a specialized market in the Friendship Village. Strategic resources such as salt and pig iron must be sold through the official channels. Strictly control the amount of goods sold. Understood. The horse and carriage department will complete the transportation work on both sides of the Friendship River. There will be a large amount of resources to be transported across the river, especially the stones. We need to organize it carefully. Ouyang Shua said to Zheng Shanpao. Understood. I guarantee that the mission will be completed. Zheng Shanpao said loudly. All right, all of you go and prepare. You will only have one afternoon. Tomorrow morning, we will officially set up the subsidiary territory on the other side of the river. Ouyang Shua said finally. Understood. After the meeting, Ouyang Shua called Zhou Haichun to his office alone. It was necessary to have a deep conversation with this new chief officer to dispel his doubts. The two of them talked until 6 in the evening. After going offline, Ouyang Shua took the time to call Song Jia and said apologetically, I'm sorry, the bandit suppression operation didn't drop the village creation token that you needed. On the other end of the phone, Song Jia smiled sweetly and said, Idiot, what's there to be sorry about? This was a matter of luck, you can't force it. Ouyang Shua nodded and said, Actually, there's another way. I just don't know if your big brother is willing to give it a try. What is it? Song Jia asked curiously. Think about it. Your family's goal is to have your own territory, right? Of course. Otherwise, why would we need the village creation token? Song Jia said coquettishly. Ouyang Shua laughed and said, Let me finish. All right, go on. If you want a territory, apart from building it yourself with the village creation token, you can also ask other Lord-level players to transfer their territory to you. That way, not only will you achieve your goal, but you will also get a territory that has already been built. This makes up for the fact that you entered the game late and won't be too far behind the Lord-level players. Ouyang Shua said with a smile. In his previous life, the mid-sized factions that entered the game after obtaining insider information also had this kind of thinking. Since they wanted to build a territory, they would naturally think of getting a village creation token first. However, they had never thought that there was actually a way to transfer it. Firstly, they weren't familiar with the game's settings, and some people didn't know about the transfer of territory. Secondly, those who knew insider information subconsciously believed that the other Lord-level players also knew about it, so they naturally weren't willing to transfer the territory that they had painstakingly built. Until one day, a genius player named Silent Knight came up with such an idea. In an instant, the other factions followed suit. They used credits that were about to become useless in real life to purchase the valuable territory of players in the game. Under the attack of money, most of the commoner Lord-level players in the game fell. Just like that, these factions once again dominated the game world. This kind of tragedy was truly heart-wrenching. The lack of information caused these ignorant people to miss out on a chance to turn things around. Ouyang Shua could still remember 1 year later in his previous life. When the truth of the game was revealed, the indignant complaints of the players who had already transferred their territory. It was a pity that this kind of thing was something that one side was willing to suffer. When the players who had transferred their territory received a large amount of credits, they were all ecstatic, thinking that they had hit the jackpot. This was why fate was sometimes so mysterious. You didn't know when it would suddenly make a sharp turn and catch you off guard. Only those who could grasp fate by the throat were truly strong in this world. "Ah, it's true," Song Jia exclaimed. "Does this count as me completing the quest?" Ouyang Shua asked jokingly. Song Jia smiled sweetly. "Uh-huh, you completed the quest more than expected. I'll treat you to a meal next time." "I couldn't ask for more." "All right, let's chat next time. I'll tell this good news to my brother first. These few days, he's been so worried about the village creation token that he can't even eat," Song Jia explained. "Oh, bye-bye." "Bye-bye." Song Jia hurriedly hung up the phone and went to find her brother. Chapter 97, March 25th, 9 in the morning. Shanghai Town's ferry. Ouyang Shua led a group of commanders to send Zhou Haichun and the others off. This time, the one the military had sent to the Friendship Village to form a garrison was Hu Yi Biao, formerly of the 1st Infantry Squadron. The main responsibility of the garrison squadron was to defend the city as well as the city walls. As for external combat, it would be the cavalry that would be stationed in the Friendship Village. Cavalry was more suitable for fighting against nomadic tribes in the wilderness. After returning from the ferry, Ouyang Shua made a trip to the alchemy workshop. Ever since the alchemist Magnus had moved in, Ouyang Shua had been busy upgrading his territory. He hadn't had the chance to learn more about this alchemy workshop, which was completely different from the East. The citizens of Shanghai Town were naturally extremely curious about this Westerner, Magnus. His golden hair, white skin, and thick hair, coupled with his broken Chinese, were enough to ignite everyone's curiosity. Of course, there were also those who knew that he was a Frankenstein from the West. Ouyang Shua had specially arranged for the alchemy workshop to be located in the northeast military region, next to the weapons workshop. This was because the alchemist recruited by Shanghai Town wasn't a traditional Chinese Taoist priest, but a pure Western alchemist. Thus, the alchemy workshop was constructed in a Western-style stone hut. It had 2 floors and a basement. The first floor was the main hall and warehouse, while the second floor was Magnus' bedroom and study. As for the alchemist's most important laboratory, it was built underground and was strictly protected. Led by Magnus, Ouyang Shua walked into the underground laboratory. There were 5 or 6 kerosene lamps hanging on the walls of the basement, and there was an enormous composite kerosene lamp hanging from the ceiling, illuminating the entire basement. Fortunately, the basement was well ventilated. Otherwise, if someone stayed here for too long, they might suffocate to death due to lack of oxygen. The laboratory was surrounded by several shelves, on top of which were all sorts of bottles and jars. In the middle was an enormous experimental platform, on top of which were beakers, distillation flasks, crucibles, and other testing equipment. "Magnus, what kind of research does the alchemy workshop engage in?" Ouyang Shua asked curiously as he toured the laboratory. The research of an alchemy workshop is mainly focused on distillation and metal extraction, Magnus said in a slightly arrogant manner. He didn't expect the lord in front of him to understand. As for Ouyang Shua, who was pretending to look at the various experimental instruments on the test bench, he was even more disdainful. He thought to himself, "Do you really understand what those instruments are for? Hypocritical Easterners." How could Magnus have imagined that Ouyang Shua was a modern man? Alchemy, which was incomparably mysterious to him, was nothing much in Ouyang Shua's eyes. Ouyang Shua casually picked up a distillation flask and asked with a smile, "The distillation you're referring to, is it the distillation method that uses reflux to separate liquid mixtures with high purity?" Magnus' eyes instantly widened, and he said excitedly, "Right, that's the method." "Oh God, my lord, I admire your wisdom." Needless to say, this Westerner was very straightforward. Once he realized that the other party really understood, he immediately changed his attitude and praised him. "Since that's the case, Magnus, if you have the time, you can make a trip to the winemaking workshop and make some improvements to their distillation techniques. If you succeed, I imagine the Finance Bureau will be very happy to pay you a generous reward, enough to support your research work." Ouyang Shua tempted him. Hearing the mention of research funds, Magnus' eyes immediately lit up, and he said loudly, "No problem. My lord, you can leave this matter to me. As for the research on metal purification, you can cooperate with the first workshop. They have an enormous need for refined iron. Aside from that, the Wolf Mountain mine will be of use to you as well. Highly purifying gold nuggets is your specialty. In short, I hope that the alchemy workshop won't be isolated from the territory, and instead should actively participate in the affairs of the territory, achieving a win-win situation." Ouyang Shua said finally. Magnus had long ago put aside his prejudices and arrogance, and he said respectfully, "My lord, your wisdom is as deep as the ocean. I, Magnus, will definitely listen to your suggestions." "Good." Before leaving, Ouyang Shua withdrew from his storage pouch that pair of boar tusks he had acquired a long time ago. Laughing, he said, "Do you have a way to refine these tusks into ornaments?" Magnus accepted the boar tusks and said cautiously, "I can give it a try." "All right, I'll wait for your good news." As he spoke, he turned and left the workshop. After leaving the workshop, Ouyang Shua made a trip to the marketplace. He steeled his heart and spent 500 gold coins to purchase a high-grade shipyard blueprint. Ever since he had acquired the Mengchong warship building technique manual, he had been impatient to build a Mengchong warship. But as a mid-grade warship, the Mengchong warship could only be built by a high-grade shipyard. There was nothing he could do. For the sake of establishing a powerful naval fleet as soon as possible, Ouyang Shua had no choice but to take out a large sum of money from his limited budget to upgrade the shipyard. After returning to the Lord's mansion, he saw Qing, and Gu Sanyang whispering to each other. Gu Sanyang had a rather dispirited look on her face, and Qing was consoling her. Ouyang Shua asked curiously, "What are you talking about?" "You're being so mysterious." Gu Sanyang was silent to the side. Qing mumbled, "Didn't Big Brother promise to let Big Sister Gu manage the restaurant? But according to the construction company's pricing, the restaurant is very expensive. In addition to the subsequent recruitment of workers and the purchase of raw materials, the startup capital alone will be 30 gold coins. In addition, the restaurant's future is uncertain. I don't know if everyone is willing to spend money on it. So Big Sister Gu is very hesitant." Ouyang Shua nodded. He looked at Gu Sanyang and asked, "Is it as Qing said?" "My lord, this lowly woman is indeed somewhat worried. In addition to the lack of financial resources, I'm afraid I'll have to disappoint your expectations. This lowly woman will continue to stay in the Lord's mansion and take care of everyone's daily needs." Gu Sanyang said, resigned to her fate. Ouyang Shua waved his hand and said, "Sanyang, you're treating me like an outsider. If you have any difficulties, you can come to me directly. There's no need for such a long sigh. The promise I made earlier naturally wasn't without purpose. This startup capital will be paid by me. I'll shamelessly use this capital to buy half of the restaurant's shares. What do you think?" Gu Sanyang was immediately overjoyed. She stammered, No. This lowly woman is already satisfied with just one share. I don't dare to ask for too much. Sanyang, you don't need to decline. I didn't mean to give in to you. If you want to run the restaurant well, the startup capital will only play a leading role. The follow-up work of recruiting workers, decorating the restaurant, researching new dishes, and other important tasks will all be handled by you, the future manager. To be honest, half of the shares is already taking advantage of you. Ouyang Shua explained. Before Gu Sanyang could say anything, Qing couldn't help but clap her hands and giggle. Big sister doesn't need to be polite with big brother. He recently plundered a large sum of money from the bandits. Ouyang Shua glared at Qing and continued. Of course, I won't keep half of the restaurant's shares for myself. I'll leave 3 shares for Ingyu and the remaining 2 for Qing. Just think of it as the pocket money that I, the big brother, have left for the 2 sisters. Qing didn't expect to receive such a benefit. The little miser immediately hugged Ouyang Shua's arm and sweetly said, Big brother, you're so good. You know how to dote on Qing, hee. Ouyang Shua rubbed her little head and said with a smile, It's good that you know. You can't be too naughty. Seeing this scene, Gu Sanyang felt at ease and said with a smile, This lowly woman thanks you for your support. Please give the restaurant a name. Ouyang Shua pondered for a moment and nodded. I think we should call it Sangha Restaurant. Not only does it reveal your identity as the manager, but it also conveys the meaning of coming back. It's just right for the restaurant. Good. That's a good name. Qing, who had just received some benefits, cheered. Gu Sanyang was also very satisfied with the restaurant's name. Many thanks for the name, sir. There's one more thing I need to report to you. If this lowly woman manages the restaurant, who will take over the Lord's Mansion's kitchen, Sanyang doesn't need to worry. After the official residence is built, apart from me, Qing and a few other sisters, everyone else in the Lord's Mansion will have to go home to eat. They won't have to take care of the meals of a large group of people like before. Secondly, after the restaurant is built, if we really want to eat, we could go to the restaurant to eat. At that time, Sanyang won't complain that we're eating for free. Ouyang Shua said jokingly. Sir is always welcome to visit. Gu Sanyang said sincerely. As for the successor of the Lord's Mansion's kitchen, I'll leave it to you, Sanyang, to choose. After all, the current territory is no longer like before. There are still many chefs, Ouyang Shua said finally. All right, Gu Sanyang nodded. After the discussion, Qing couldn't wait to finding you to report the good news. Ouyang Shua didn't care about her and called Zhao Duang to his office to arrange for people to upgrade the shipyard as soon as possible. Zhao Diwang's face was bitter. Recently, this director of construction had been tormented by Ouyang Shua to the point of going crazy. There were construction projects everywhere. They had just finished building the city wall and the moat, and now they had to start upgrading the territory. This was just the beginning, and now they had received the task of building the Friendship Village's city wall. The craftsmen had just set off for the Friendship Village, and now they had to upgrade the shipyard. It was another big project. Even if he had 3 heads and 6 arms, he wouldn't be able to handle it all. Ouyang Shua patted Zhao Diwang's shoulder and said solemnly, You've worked hard during this period. When you're done, I'll give you a bonus. What else could Zhao Duang say? He could only smile bitterly and agree. Chapter 98. When he logged off the next day, Song Jia called Ouyang Shua again. Hey, blockhead, the method you mentioned is really useful. My big brother has already purchased a level 3 village in Lingnan. It's called Sky Frost Village. Song Jia said happily. Congratulations, a level 3 village is already quite amazing. How much money did you spend? Songwon was quite fast. In just a day, he had already settled the territory. Ouyang Shua wasn't surprised that Song had chosen the Lingnan region. Many Lord-level players like to establish their territories in areas that corresponded to the real world. Guess, Song Jia said mischievously. Ouyang Shua converted the level 3 village to gold and gave a rough estimate, 10 million. Song Jia shook her head and smiled bitterly. Add another 0. No way that much. Ouyang Shua couldn't believe it. It's all my big brother's fault for being too impatient. He wanted to buy it immediately. In the end, the other party demanded an exorbitant price, but he didn't even try to bargain and bought it. He even looked like he got a bargain, Song Jia said. Wouldn't that be a bargain? Ouyang Shua thought to himself. Exchanging credits that would soon become invalid for a level 3 village was a sure win. No wonder the commoner lords in his previous life all fell. These medium-sized powers really weren't careless, spending 100 million at once. If Ouyang Shuo was willing to sell Shanghai town, then getting 10 billion would be an easy matter. Unfortunately, this was impossible. Ouyang Shuo smiled. No matter what, it's a success. Your family doesn't lack money anyways. What? Even if you have money, you shouldn't spend it like this. It could be assumed that the Song clan still had some reservations towards a female member like Song Jia and didn't tell her the entire inside story. Up until now, Song Jia still thought that this was just a game. What a naive girl. Ouyang Shuo didn't dwell on this sensitive topic for too long. Instead, he asked, "Did you also move to the Heavenly Frost Village?" "Yeah, I'm finally free. You don't know how much pressure I feel when I wear the equipment you gave me to level up. I'm afraid that I'll be targeted by someone with bad intentions." "All right, I suggest you switch to free mode for that new swordplay manual." Ouyang Shuo suddenly remembered that Song Jia still didn't understand the secret of the swordplay code. He was afraid that she would waste this opportunity, so he specially instructed her. "All right, I also feel that this swordsmanship manual is quite interesting." "That's good. That's right. My big brother said that he wanted to thank you properly. He even said that he wanted to give you 1,000,000 tips, but I stopped him. He wants to treat you to a meal. How about it? Do you want to go?" Song Jia asked. Ouyang Shuo shook his head. He didn't want to be too close to the Song consortium in reality. He said tactfully, "Forget about the meal. I was just saying, it's not much help. I knew you wouldn't agree. You won't reject my invitation, right? Since the beauty is treating me, of course I'll be there anytime." "That's settled then. I haven't washed up yet. Bye-bye." "Bye-bye." Ouyang Shuo hung up the phone and walked out of the room. Today was Saturday, and Binger was sleeping in again. On the other hand, Sun Xiaoya had just logged off because she was playing games. She was wearing her pajamas and was about to wash up when she bumped into Ouyang Shuo at the door. "How was it? Did it go well in the game?" Ouyang Shuo casually asked. "Yeah, it was really fun. The things taught in Royal City's architecture school are very professional. It's all knowledge about China's ancient architecture. I feel that it's even more detailed than the information in our school's library. Gaia really is too powerful. Originally, I was just playing around, but after a few classes, I was completely fascinated," Sun Xiaoya said with great interest. Ouyang Shuo nodded and said, "Then learn well. In the future, restore those ancient buildings one by one in the territory." "Really?" Xiaoya asked in pleasant surprise. "Of course. As long as you draw the blueprints, I promise to build it for you. A future master architect. Hee, then it's a deal." "It's a deal." After Sun Xiaoya washed up, Ouyang Shuo turned around and walked into Binger's room. This child was really lazy. She clearly slept at 9:30 last night. What a lazy little pig. The little girl slept sweetly. The pocket-sized Snow was lying in Binger's arms, looking extremely cute. As a top artificial intelligence pet, Snow was much more vigilant than Binger. She woke up the moment Ouyang Shuo entered. After spending some time together, Snow and Ouyang Shuo were already very familiar with each other. She flew lightly into Ouyang Shuo's palm. Ouyang Shuo used his thumb to rub Snow's little face and asked with a smile, "Snow, do you think your little master is a lazy little pig?" Snow nodded cutely and said crisply, "Yep, a little pig." Binger happened to be woken up by the noise. When she heard this, she muttered, "Bad Snow, little traitor." Ouyang Shuo pinched the little girl's nose and said, "Darling, wake up quickly. Go jogging with Big Brother today. Train your body and breathe in some fresh air." And bad Big Brother, waking up Binger so early in the morning. The little girl clearly hadn't woken up yet. She called everyone bad. This time, Ouyang Shuo didn't want to spoil her and force her to wake up. Under Ouyang Shuo's coercion, the poor Binger could only obediently get up and wash up. Snow followed behind her. Her little master had heard her bad words just now, so of course she had to run over and comfort her little master. Hearing that Ouyang Shuo was going to take Binger jogging, Xiaoya also became interested. Thus, on the green path downstairs of the residential area, there appeared such a combination of 2 adults and 1 child. Those who didn't know better would think that they were a family of 3. Oh, there was also a pocket-sized artificial intelligence pet. It flew around the three of them. It was extremely comfortable. Binger followed behind her big brother. As she jogged, she looked at the flying snow and said enviously, "If only Binger could fly like snow." Ouyang Shuo laughed and shook his head, ignoring the little girl's imagination. Because it happened to be the weekend, Ouyang Shuo specially declined Song Jia's invitation to dinner and changed it to the next Monday at noon. In the day, he accompanied Binger to watch TV at home in the morning and accompanied her to do homework in the afternoon. He hadn't accompanied the little girl to do homework in a long time. He couldn't help but feel a little guilty. On the 26th of March, Ouyang Shuo went online on time. As usual, he practiced the big spear training and 8 extremities fist in the courtyard for 2 hours. After a short break, he walked into the office. On the office desk, there was an official letter sent over by Pool Town in the morning. Ouyang Shuo opened it and saw that it was a letter from Zhang Dainiu, the garrison general of Pool Town. In the letter, Zhang Dainiu wrote that since Pool Town had been promoted to a first-class town, he requested for the garrison squadron to be expanded to 200 people to handle the more arduous garrison tasks. Ouyang Shuo nodded. Such a request was reasonable, and he had no reason to reject it. He picked up his pen and wrote at the back of the letter, "Pool Town is allowed to expand to a cavalry squadron. The selection of the squadron leader will be approved by the Military Affairs Department. The expenses will be covered by oneself." After he finished writing, Ouyang Shuo called the concierge and asked him to send a letter to the Military Affairs Department. When he was handling the official letter, Ouyang Shuo realized that with the increasing number of official documents sent to him, it was time to appoint a full-time clerk to assist him in handling the daily administrative affairs. Ouyang Shuo called Du Quan, the chief officer of the Household Registration Department, to his office. He asked him to help him find a clerk for the new refugees. This was also a test of the new director's foresight. Du Quan was naturally aware of this. He nodded and promised that he would find a suitable clerk for his lord. In reality, the position of a clerk was not simple. Although the position was small and inconspicuous, it had the opportunity to get in touch with the core affairs of the territory. It was a very good position to gain experience. Correspondingly, the requirements for the clerk's abilities were naturally not ordinary. Not only did the clerk have to have strong administrative skills, but they also had to have a certain level of strategy. They had to be able to give targeted suggestions or opinions for the Lord's reference. Many famous prime ministers in history had started their careers as clerks. For example, the famous prime minister of the Tang dynasty, Fang Xianling, used to be a clerk in the Qin residence for a long time. The first clerk of Shanghai village, Gu Xiuan, also did a good job. Even after Ouyang Shuo arranged for him to work in the Household Registration Department, he still worked part-time as a clerk. This made Ouyang Shuo very satisfied. Ever since Gu Xiuan was assigned to Beihai village, Ouyang Shuo had been lacking such a person. The next day, Du Quan found a candidate for the clerk. The two of them walked into Ouyang Shuo's office one after the other. After Du Quan bowed, he said happily, "Reporting to my lord. Among the new refugees today, there's a young high scholar. I have investigated him and believe that he is qualified to be a clerk. I have specially brought him here to pay my respects to my lord. Please examine him personally." At this time, the scholar walked out from behind Du Quan. He bowed and said respectfully, "I am Bai Nan Pu. I pay my respects to my lord." Bai Nan Pu looked to be about 24 or 25 years old. He wore a white scholar's robe. His hair was like a knife, and his eyebrows were like swords. His appearance was dignified, and he had the air of a scholar. Ouyang Shuo nodded. His first impression of Bai Nan Pu was very good. In order to further understand him, Ouyang Shuo looked at Bai Nan Pu's attributes. Name, Bai Nan Pu Gold. Identity, Shanghai village clerk. Occupation, civil official, high scholar. Loyalty, 75 commander, 25 martial power, 50 intelligence, 55 politics, 50 skills. Erudite, increases the efficiency of the territory's administration by 5. Meticulous, increases the speed of document processing by 15. Remarks, a scholar from a poor family, well-read, has a good sense of strategy, and is a modest gentleman. He was indeed a good talent. Ouyang Shuo said with satisfaction. Very good. I will appoint you as Shanghai Village's clerk. You will assist me in handling documents. Thank you for your promotion, my lord. I will not let you down. Chapter 99. For the next 3 days, the territory was calm and peaceful. Seeing that the first system auction was approaching, Ouyang Shuo began to gather the territory's funds. On March 29th, Shanghai Town sold sea salt for the second time. The Northern Sunset Salt Works have been expanded twice since the last time. On February 16th, the third phase of the salt works was built, expanding to 2,000 mu. On March 3rd, the fourth phase of the salt works was built, expanding to 5,000 mu. Based on the average monthly output of 500 units of sea salt per mu, after deducting the time taken to build the salt pans, the Northern Sunset Salt Works produced an astonishing 5 million units of sea salt. Each unit of sea salt was sold for 20 copper coins on the market, so 5 million units of sea salt was 7,000 gold coins. After deducting the 20% transaction tax, the actual profit was 5,600 gold coins. After deducting the operating costs of the Northern Sunset Salt Works, the actual profit was 5,000 gold coins. Ouyang Shuo's heart was bleeding. Such a heavy transaction tax was simply asking for his life. On March 30th, the Wolf Mountain Mine delivered gold to the base camp for the first time. At the current stage, the Wolf Mountain Mine had 1,500 miners. 1,000 of them were in charge of mining, while the other 500 were in charge of transportation and refining. On average, the Wolf Mountain Mine could mine 100 tons of gold ore every day, refining 2,000 grams of gold, which was 100 gold coins. After deducting the operating costs of the mine, the actual profit was 1,500 gold coins in half a month. Don't think that the Wolf Mountain Mine had the upper hand just because the profit was much lower than the Northern Sunset Salt Works. Firstly, the Wolf Mountain Mine had only been established for half a month or so. Secondly, there were only 1,500 miners in the Wolf Mountain Mine, while the Northern Sunset Salt Works had 2,500 salt workers. Based on the average profit per worker, a salt worker could earn 2 gold coins per month, while a miner could earn 3 gold coins per month. In addition, the Wolf Mountain Mine did not need to pay the 20% transaction tax, so it actually had an advantage over the Northern Sunset Salt Works. As for the territory's financial revenue, since the large brewery was placed under the jurisdiction of the finance department, the territory's finances had improved slightly. However, it was not the time to hand over profits yet. Firstly, the territory's infrastructure was constantly being built and needed continuous investment. Secondly, the business department's economic stimulus policy also needed to constantly increase support funds. Therefore, Ouyang Shuo was already very satisfied that the finance department could maintain a balance of payments. At the end of the inventory, Ouyang Shuo held a huge sum of 7,570 gold coins and was full of confidence for the upcoming system auction. At this stage, even the wealthiest Lord Chunshin would not have more than 1,000 gold coins in his territory. It wasn't that they didn't have that much money, but the construction of the territory required constant investment. Just the military expenditure alone could exhaust the Lord. Only the Shanghai town, which held the Northern Twilight Salt Works and the Wolf Mountain Mine, had such confidence. On the 31st of March, Gaia finally announced the news regarding the auction and the exchange in reality. System announcement. In order to celebrate the completion of the game's 3-month operation, the system will be holding the first system auction on the 1st of April at 10 a.m. At that time, there will be many rare treasures being auctioned. Please look forward to it. Friendly reminder: Lord-class players must be at least intermediate in order to participate. As soon as the announcement was made, the lords of the major forces rubbed their palms together, determined to take the lead. They kept urging their subordinates to use the last day to buy as many game coins as possible at all costs. Handan Town. Di-chan asked Peerless Elegance, "How much funds can we use now?" Peerless Elegance frowned and said awkwardly, "After we advance to a level 3 town, just buying the basic building blueprints and upgrading the advanced military camp has nearly drained all our funds. The army doesn't even have the funds to expand. How can we still use any funds? What do we do? According to the information our family has gathered, a rare weapon and equipment manufacturing technique manual will appear at this auction. We definitely can't miss it. I'll go offline and gather funds now. While there's still a day left, we'll try to buy as many gold coins as possible, Deechin said helplessly. Then that's the only way. Peerless Elegance had no other good ideas. Elixir Town. Lord Chunshin called the chief steward of the territory's finance department. He crossed his legs and asked in a relaxed manner, "How many gold coins have we accumulated?" The chief steward was a fat man with a face full of riches. He said with a smile, "Young master, don't worry. After 2 months of accumulation, the funds that could be used have reached 2,000 gold coins. I believe no one can match that." Lord Chunshin nodded in satisfaction and said, "Looks like we were right to hold back from advancing to a level 3 town. Ever since the family found out about the auction, we've been preparing for 2 whole months. It's finally time to reap the fruits of victory." Humph. That idiot Deechun must be regretting his decision to advance to a level 3 town in such a high-profile manner. "Ha! Young master is wise," the chief steward said flatteringly. Swordsman Town. Feng Qingyang looked at his little sister and asked unwillingly, "Little sister, is there really no other way?" Feng Qingyue said crisply, "Big brother, although we've successfully harvested a large amount of funds through the Azure Sunsword sect, these funds have already been used to purchase secret manuals. We can only give up on tomorrow's auction. We can only blame our family for being too ill-informed. We didn't even find out about such an important inside story." Feng Qingyue was also somewhat unwilling. She originally had over 1,000 gold coins in her hands, but because of the ill-informed, she had used it in the wrong place. "Then, why don't we sell these secret manuals first and get the funds to deal with tomorrow's auction?" Feng Qingyang asked tentatively. "Absolutely not. Selling the secret manuals back to the market will require a 20% transaction tax. It's not worth it." Feng Qingyue flatly refused. "All right, I'll listen to you." Feng Qingyang could only accept his fate in the end. Overlord Town. Xiongba sat in the middle and asked anxiously, "How is it? Did you negotiate with Wandering Huan?" Sitting opposite Xiongba was an old man in his 50s. He had a shrewd look on his face as he nodded and said, "Young master, don't worry. The negotiations went smoothly. Wandering Huan has already agreed to lend us all their funds. The condition is that Fallen Leaves Town will have the priority to purchase the equipment after we use the technique manual to manufacture it." "Good, as expected of my good brother. Wandering is still reliable at crucial times. How about this? We can't treat him badly. Tell him that once we manufacture the equipment, we'll give 100 sets to Fallen Leaves Town for free." Xiongba said happily. As expected of an old fox, he actually thought of such a method to raise funds. "Young master is wise," the old man said respectfully. "Ha! If you want to achieve hegemony, you must have this bit of magnanimity," Xiongba said proudly. Spirit Rhino Town. Green, red, purple, and white gathered again. "Big sister, what strategy should we adopt for tomorrow's auction?" Violet asked. Bai Hua shook his head and said, "We only have less than 600 gold coins. We can only adapt to the situation when the time comes." "That's right. Tomorrow, we'll focus on 1 or 2 unpopular items and strive to get them in one fell swoop. As for the popular items, let those big forces fight for them. We won't join in the fun, Cyan," he suggested. "Yes, fourth sister's suggestion is good. Let's do it." Bai Hua made the final decision. Various forces surged, and the balance between supply and demand was completely broken. Game coins rose in response. From the original exchange rate of 1 copper coin to 2 credits, it continuously rose to 3 credits for credits and 5 credits. In the end, it actually rose to 1 copper coin to 10 credits. In other words, 1 gold coin could be exchanged for 100,000 credits. If Ouyang Shuo were to sell his gold coins, he would immediately be able to obtain more than 700 million credits. It was really crazy. For a period of time, Ouyang Shuo couldn't help but wonder if he should take advantage of the high price and sell some of his gold coins. When the exchange rate of game coins fell, he would use credits to buy game coins and earn the difference in the middle. In the end, he resisted the temptation. First, he didn't know what good items would be sold at tomorrow's auction. It was better to save up some gold coins to be safe. Second, this kind of reverse operation would consume a lot of his energy. In general, it wasn't worth it. System announcement. In order to regulate the exchange between game coins and real-world credits and protect the legal rights of players, the system will officially open the currency exchange platform at 2 p.m. on April 1st. At that time, players could trade game coins with each other through the exchange platform at any time. The system will take a 2% processing fee. Although the opening of the exchange platform wasn't like other games, where players could directly exchange credits for game coins, it also indirectly expanded the trading range of game coins. The players of the big forces could use the advantage of the platform to easily absorb the game coins in the hands of players. Ouyang Shua knew that the big forces had originally thought that they could directly exchange credits for game coins. However, because it would affect the balance of the game, the Federation government had rejected it. The Federation government was worried that once the truth was announced, it would incite a civil war. The exchange platform in front of them was the result of the compromise between the two sides. Hearing the last system announcement, Di Chun and Chun Shunjun's faces turned ashen. The system was really too immoral this time. It just had to wait until after the auction to open the exchange platform. This was deliberately preventing them, the tycoons, from using the exchange platform to plunder game coins in advance. This was to ensure the fairness of the auction. According to normal logic, this kind of arrangement was obviously not appropriate. Unfortunately, from the moment Earth on Lu was created, it wasn't a normal game. There was nothing that could be done. Chapter 100 is almost equal to NB on April 1st at 9:50 a.m., 10 minutes before the auction. Ouyang Shua arrived at the wooden house in the intermediate market. 32473, 21,147, is almost equal to 25120, 320, 119, 87, 119, 46, 71, 101, 73, 76, 119, 120, 46, 67, 111, 109. He clicked on the time limit button skillfully, and the sound of the system's escalating tone rang out. System notification. There are still 10 minutes until the first system auction. Do you want to enter now? Let's go. System notification. Checking player entry requirements. System notification. Players' funds must not be less than 200 gold coins. Requirements met. Beginning teleportation. With a flash of white light, Ouyang Shua instantly appeared in the system auction hall. The entire hall seemed to be situated in the middle of the universe, and the ground was shrouded in clouds and mist. The hall's surroundings and the sky were filled with stars. The twinkling stars were extremely beautiful, like a fairyland. It was somewhat similar to the hall where he had created his character. In front of the auction hall was a lotus-shaped platform, and on the platform stood a female photographer dressed like a court lady. The court lady was extremely beautiful, fresh and refined. She was simply a replica of the fairy who had created the character hall. The system really had a bad taste. Naturally, there were rows of seats at the back of the hall. Everyone sat in the hall, and there were no so-called private rooms. Everyone's seat was random. Ouyang Shua looked around and found that he was sitting in the middle of the third row, which was not bad. In his hands were 2 tags, one red and one white. His number was 76, which should be given out according to the order of entry. In his previous life, Ouyang Shua had never participated in such a system auction, so he didn't know what the token in his hand was for. In the hall, there were already a few Lord-class players sitting in 2s and 3s. They didn't pay much attention to Ouyang Shua's appearance, and most of them remained silent. Only a small number of acquaintances sat together and chatted in low voices. In the auction hall, everyone's appearance was completely exposed. The system didn't try to be mysterious by giving everyone a mask or something. In fact, when everyone created the game character, the system would automatically modify the player's appearance. In addition to the different attire and the player's own temperament, It was impossible to find out the player's real identity through their in-game appearance. Naturally, there was no need to keep it secret. In the following period of time, there were flashes of white light as waves of players entered the arena. Because the system had set the entry requirement of 200 gold coins, a large portion of the players were excluded. In the end, there were less than 1,000 players in the auction hall. Among these people, Ouyang Shua saw many familiar faces. Some were enemies like Di Chun, some were allies like Bai Hua, and some were fated people like Dragon-seeking Acupuncture Point. Of course, now it was Ouyang Shua who recognized them, and they didn't recognize Ouyang Shua. 10 minutes later, the auction officially began. The auctioneer said, "Everyone, please be quiet. Before the auction begins, I would like to introduce the rules of this auction to all of you. This auction has a total of 10 items, each of which is a rare treasure. Before the previous item is auctioned, the next item will not be made public. Every item has a starting bid, and each increment must not be less than 10 gold coins. In addition, in order to increase the excitement of the auction, every item has a fixed price. Throughout the auction, you can directly bid for the auction item at a fixed price at any time. Everyone will be holding a red and white sign in their hands. The white sign is for the starting bid, while the red sign is for the fixed price. Please remember this." Ouyang Shua listened with great interest. He didn't know what trick the system was playing. Not only did it not make the information of the auction public, but it also set a fixed price. This kind of auction rules was a huge challenge to the player's intelligence. The game was too complicated and too interesting. Sure enough, after the auctioneer finished reading the rules, the audience began to discuss. Everyone felt a headache coming on. The players had limited funds. Being able to obtain one item was already a success. However, what if the next item was something they wanted even more? Wouldn't that be a pity? What if they were too greedy and didn't bid early, and the price of the next item was too high? They wouldn't be able to obtain it. Wouldn't that be even worse? They would be stuck between a rock and a hard place. The auctioneer didn't care about everyone's discussion. She directly announced, "Now, let's start bidding for the first item." In an instant, a token appeared in her hand. She said, "This is a general class change token. It can change a soldier of any rank to a junior general. The starting bid is 100 gold coins, and the fixed price is 500 gold coins." The system was truly extraordinary. The first item was already such a rare item. A general class change token was much more valuable than a civil officer class change token. This was especially true for territories that didn't have the ability to upgrade to a high-level military camp. The system's fixed price was also quite interesting. 500 gold coins was just the right amount to upgrade to a high-level military camp. Anything over 500 gold coins was naturally out of the question. Ouyang Shua didn't have much need for this thing. Most of the bidders were small to medium-sized territories. 110 gold coins. Someone began to call out a bid. 120 gold coins. 170 gold coins. 220 gold coins. After the price exceeded 200 gold coins, everyone became more cautious. They began to weigh the pros and cons. After some hesitation, the token was successfully won by a player for 240 gold coins. The auctioneer began to reveal the second item. She was holding a book in her hand. She said, "The second item is the Tang Knife Forging Technique Manual. The starting bid is 200 gold coins, and the fixed price is 1,000 gold coins. Everyone, please make your bids." Ouyang Shua was shocked. This was a good item. It could be used together with the radiant armor. The others naturally knew what was good. No matter what it was, as long as it was related to weapons and equipment, it was a good item. Thus, Ouyang Shua didn't make a move. He didn't rush to call out a bid. He wanted to observe first. 210 gold coins. Someone began to call out a bid. 240 gold coins. 320 gold coins. This time, the bidding was much more intense than the first item. It didn't take long for it to reach 400 gold coins. 600 gold coins. This time, it was Xiongba who called out a bid. He raised the price by 200 gold coins, instantly intimidating the other players. It wasn't that the other major powers didn't have the ability to compete. It was just that this was only the second item. They didn't want to fight too fiercely, so they all gave up. Xiongba was secretly pleased. His strategy was indeed effective. Just when he thought that victory was in his grasp, Ouyang Shua expressionlessly raised a white card in his hand and said, 650 gold coins. The surrounding people were shocked. Xiongba was a famous gamer. So many people knew him, especially the representatives of the major powers. They were all very familiar with each other. They originally thought that they would be the main characters in this auction. Who would have thought that someone would appear out of nowhere? Xiongba's eyes narrowed. He looked at Ouyang Shua and asked uncertainly, "Is it Brother Wui?" Ouyang Shua had long since prepared himself to be seen through. At this stage, apart from the major powers, the most likely person to have such wealth was him. He nodded and said, "Yes, it's me. Greetings, Brother Xiongba." "Haha, since it's brother, then I'll directly give up." Xiongba laughed, as if he didn't care at all about his previous mistake. He was indeed an old fox. It was obvious that he didn't have the confidence to fight Ouyang Shua, but he made it sound like he was doing him a favor. As the saying goes, if people respect me, I will respect them tenfold. Ouyang Shua naturally wasn't someone who didn't know what was good for him. Since Xiongba had expressed his goodwill, he naturally accepted it. He smiled and said, "Then this little brother will thank you in advance." The two of them talked as if there was no one else around. The surrounding players were in an uproar. Today, the most mysterious lord of the China region finally revealed his true identity. Even Di Chun and Lord Chun couldn't help but turn around and look at him. The group of people stared at Ouyang Shua as if he was a monster. Ouyang Shua himself didn't move towards the greetings of the people around him. He only nodded politely and didn't want to talk. Fortunately, the auctioneer helped him out by saying, 650 gold coins going once, 650 gold coins going twice, 650 gold coins going thrice. Congratulations to number 76 for successfully winning the second auction item. In the instant that the auctioneer announced, the Tang Dao Forging Technique Manual appeared in Ouyang Shua's storage bag. Now, for the third auction item. This time, a pearl appeared in the auctioneer's hand. She continued, "The third auction item is a wood spirit pearl. Its effect is to increase the output of the territory's crops by 15%. The starting price is 100 gold coins, and the buyout price is 500 gold coins." This was another good item. It had the same effect as the territory's characteristic scroll. Don't look down on 10% of the output. When the territory expanded in the future, it would become a huge sum of money. It was definitely worth it. Ouyang Shua was hesitant about whether or not he should intervene. His main goal in participating in this auction was to obtain the weapon and equipment manual. The other items weren't necessary. Although he had sufficient funds, he didn't want to expose too much of his financial strength. While Ouyang Shua was hesitating, the price of the wood spirit pearl had already reached a high price of 400 gold coins. Ouyang Shua raised his head and saw that the last bidder was Bai Hua. Since he was his ally, it wouldn't be good for him to make a move. In the end, Bai Hua successfully obtained the wood spirit pearl at the price of 400 gold coins. Bai Hua's strategy was undoubtedly successful. She knew that her funds were limited and that she couldn't compete with the major powers. The major powers' goal was the same as Ouyang Shua's. They were all aiming for the weapon and equipment manual. They naturally weren't willing to waste their precious funds on the wood spirit pearl. Font. Chapter 101. After the first 3 items were auctioned, Di Chun and Lord Chun had yet to make a move. "Now, let's begin the auction for the 4th item," the auctioneer said, holding a wooden doll in her hand. "This is a substitute doll. It allows a player to reincarnate once after death. The starting bid is 100 gold. The buyout price is 500 gold. Please place your bids." The players below the stage were baffled. Why would the system bring out such an item that did not have much use? At the current stage of the game, players would only lose 1 level after death. Why would they need a substitute doll? It was a waste of a treasure. Only Ouyang Shua knew in his heart that this could indeed be called a treasure. After a year, when players around the world were online, the system would adjust the death penalty. When players died, their Their levels would be reset to 0, and all their items would be dropped. There was only one way to avoid such a harsh punishment: to use a substitute doll. In the previous life, substitute dolls had been sold at sky-high prices. 110 gold coins. Someone started bidding with the mentality of giving it a try. 120 gold, 130 gold, 140 gold. The players who had called out earlier had the mentality of picking up a bargain. In any case, they did not have the strength to get their hands on the heavyweight items. Since the system had labeled this substitute doll as a treasure, it might have other uses, such as triggering a hidden quest. 180 gold, 190 gold, 200 gold. In the end, the substitute doll's price rose to 200 gold. After that, very few people called out a bid. After all, there was a limit to picking up a bargain. It would not be worth it if they dug a pit for themselves instead of picking up a bargain. 250 gold. Ouyang Shua saw through the player's thoughts. He immediately increased the bid by 50 gold, crushing the last straw in their hearts. 250 gold coins going once, 250 gold coins going twice, 250 gold coins going thrice. Congratulations to number 76 for successfully winning the 4th auction item. The auctioneer hammered down the hammer. This was the item that was closest to the reserve price. Bumpkin. Di-chan said in disdain when he saw Ouyang Shua squandering his money. The auctioneer was really professional. After one item was auctioned, she immediately introduced the next item. This time, she held another token in her hand and said, "Now, let's start the auction of the 5th item. This is a basic commander's tally. It can transform 100 max-leveled militiamen into Tier 1 heavy-armored cavalrymen. The starting price is 300 gold, and the final offer is 1,500 gold. Please make your bids." There was an uproar below. This commander's seal could be considered to have hit the weak spot of a major force. If it was an ordinary commander's seal, or even the commander's seal that Ouyang Shua had obtained before, it wouldn't be enough to make everyone so excited. After all, the territories of these major forces were basically at the township level. It was still possible for them to equip a team of light cavalry. However, the heavy-armored cavalry was different. It was a completely different concept. Regardless of whether it was the heavy cavalry's excellent equipment or the excellent war horses that could be carried, none of the lords had the ability to purchase them. Wasn't Ouyang Shua himself still having a headache over the buckskin horse? 500 gold. Army Kill Ripper was the first to bid, immediately excluding the other lords who were watching the show. Not to be outdone, Xiongba shouted, 600 gold coins, 700 gold coins. This time, it was Wolf Warrior who joined the bidding. Di-chan also did not want to be left out. He shouted, 800 gold coins. Out of the original 6 hegemons of Handan, only Lord Chunshin, Feng Xiuhuang, and Feng Qingyang did not bid. The latter did not have the ability to do so, so the other two could not understand what was going on. Lord Chunshin had a huge amount of funds, but he was still unperturbed, unmoved. Feng Xiuhuang was similarly unperturbed, determined not to make a move. Di-chan was delighted, thinking that he would be able to obtain the commander's seal. Unexpectedly, Xiongba directly shattered his fantasies, bidding 1,000 gold coins. Di-chan's face instantly turned ugly. Yesterday, he had scraped together everything and even borrowed money from the other lords. The funds he had gathered was only 950 gold coins, not even 1,000 gold coins. Xiongba's bid had undoubtedly excluded him from the game. How could he not be angry? 1,100 gold coins. Ouyang Shua suddenly joined the bidding. When Ouyang Shua bid, everyone was shocked. They did not expect him to have such a strong capital. Ouyang Shua's previous 2 auction items had already cost 900 gold coins. Adding this bid, he had exactly 2,000 gold coins. Such a huge amount of capital was simply unimaginable to the average lord. With such a huge amount of capital, what would Shanghai Town look like? Shanghai Town, the most mysterious territory in the China region. How many more secrets were hidden? Those who were qualified to participate in this auction were the cream of the crop among the lords. Thinking of Di-chan's provocation towards Ouyang Shua, they looked at Di-chan with a mocking gaze. Wasn't Di Chun very arrogant previously? Now, you can't even take out 1,000 gold coins, and you still have the cheek to look down on Ouyang Shua. What a joke. Di Chun felt the malicious gazes from the surrounding players, and his face turned as black as charcoal. He hated Ouyang Shua even more, and wanted to eat him up. In his heart, he thought viciously, "You damned country bumpkin. Di Chun will definitely teach you a lesson." 1,200 gold coins. Unexpectedly, Xiongba still did not intend to let go. Ouyang Shua was startled. He had somewhat underestimated the world's heroes. He didn't expect Xiongba to have such a huge amount of capital. Thinking of Xiongba's previous goodwill, as well as Ouyang Shua's original plan, which was to use the radiant armor and cyan beetle horse as the core to recreate the heavy cavalry of the Tang dynasty, this commander seal seemed a bit useless. Ouyang Shua looked at Xiongba and smiled. "Congratulations, brother Xiongba. I give up." Xiongba laughed and said, "Thank you, brother Wui." He didn't expect that his goodwill would immediately be reciprocated. It seemed that Yu Wui was someone worth befriending. As expected, Xiongba won the commander seal at a high price of 1,200 gold coins. It was also the most expensive item in the auction so far. Xiongba was happy, but at the same time, he felt a bit bitter. He had borrowed the funds of his ally, Wandering Fantasy, to buy weapons and equipment blueprints. Now, he had used it to buy a commander seal. When he returned, he would have to give a good explanation. He couldn't let this cause animosity between them. After the first half of the auction ended, the auctioneer announced a half-hour break. Taking advantage of the break, Ouyang Shua found Bai Hua and prepared to greet her. This was the first time the two had met since they had formed an alliance. It was a bit strange. When Bai Hua saw Ouyang Shua, she took the initiative to extend her right hand and said with a smile, "Hearing about you is not as good as meeting you in person." Ouyang Shua politely shook Bai Hua's hand and said, "I have long admired Lord Bai Hua's name. Today, I have seen your true face. You are as beautiful as a painting, graceful and elegant. I didn't think that the mysterious Yu Wui was also a playboy." Bai Hua teased. Ouyang Shua shook his head and said seriously, "A fair and graceful lady is a gentleman's desire." Puffed. Bai Hua smiled sweetly. At that moment, her beauty stunned Ouyang Shua. No wonder she was ranked third in the China region. Her charm was extraordinary. This simple conversation had instantly closed the distance between the two. Bai Hua was no longer as polite as before. She said with a smile, "I still haven't congratulated you for successfully winning 2 items. You are indeed rich." "Same to you. Same to you." Ouyang Shua also admired Bai Hua's strategy. Bai Hua was also very satisfied with her harvest this time. However, she couldn't help feeling a bit regretful that she wouldn't have the chance to obtain the most important weapon and equipment manufacturing manual. She casually glanced at her ally and said jokingly, "Spirit Rhino Town will have to return empty-handed this time. We will have to rely on Shanghai Town to help us in the future." Ouyang Shua nodded and said straightforwardly, "What do you mean by help?" "As an ally, I can guarantee you that as long as Shanghai Town digests the manufacturing manual and forms an industry, we will not be stingy in selling these equipment to Spirit Rhino Town." Bai Hua was overjoyed and sincerely said, "Then this little sister will thank you in advance." Bai Hua didn't know that vigorously developing the military industry and selling weapons and equipment to allies for high profits was Ouyang Shua's policy. The North Twilight Saltwork scale was limited, and the Wolf Mountain mine would be emptied one day. He wouldn't just sit and eat. The military industry was undoubtedly an excellent opportunity. Not only could it upgrade the territory's industry, but it would also strengthen the military strength of his allies. It could be said to be killing 2 birds with 1 stone. As the two were chatting, 2 male players walked over. When they saw Ouyang Shua, they excitedly said, "This little brother is Dragon Seeking Acupoint, Siege Lion. Greetings, brother Wui." Ouyang Shua suddenly understood. So was these two. During the previous incident with Di Chun, these two were the backbone of Ouyang Shua's camp. Ouyang Shua cupped his fists and said with a smile, So it's you two brothers. Wooey thanks you for last time. Brother Wooey, you're too polite. You're the leader of us commoner players. Di-chun is just a clown. Siege Lion's temper was a bit straightforward. He didn't pay any attention to Di-chun, who was standing not far away. Ouyang Shuo chatted with these two people. These two were the best among the commoner lords, so they were naturally knowledgeable. Siege Lion didn't need to be said. On the surface, he seemed a bit too straightforward, but he was actually very meticulous. Ouyang Shuo still remembered the analysis post that Siege Lion had posted when the server had just opened. Dragon-seeking Acupoint was a well-known professional player and the most famous quest maniac in the China server. His mind was naturally very meticulous. Otherwise, he wouldn't have been able to discover quest clues that others couldn't. Because of time constraints, Ouyang Shuo didn't talk too much. After introducing Bai Hua to the two of them, they agreed to discuss the alliance after the auction. Chapter 102. After the intermission, the second half of the auction officially began. The auctioneer took out a scroll and said, "This is a territory-unique scroll. After using it, it will increase the attractiveness of special talents by 5. The starting price is 100 gold coins, and the final price is 500 gold coins. Everyone, please place your bids." Ouyang Shuo had already obtained this territory characteristic scroll during the spring offensive. Because the same scroll could not be used repeatedly, he did not participate in the auction. Ouyang Shuo did not need it, but it did not mean that others did not like it. In the end, the scroll was successfully won by Dragon Seeking Point for 300 gold coins. After the appetizer, the auctioneer dropped another bomb. She picked up a book and said, "The 7th item is the Iron Floating Armor Raiment Forging Technique Manual. The base price is 400 gold coins, and the buyout price is 2,000 gold coins. Everyone, please place your bids." The Iron Floating Armor was another name for the Jurchen's heavy armored cavalry. Both men and horses wore heavy armor and had strong offensive capabilities. To some extent, such an elite armor could compete with the Tang Dynasty's radiant armor. 600 gold coins. This time, Military Kill Ripper was still the first to bid. 800 gold coins. Battle Wolf was not to be outdone and shouted, 800 gold coins, 900 gold coins. Di-chun stared fixedly at Ouyang Shuo and Lord Chunshin. The previous bids by Military Kill Ripper and Battle Wolf were just a two-man act. Their goal was to let Di-chun win it. Right now, only Ouyang Shuo and Lord Chunshin are qualified to participate in the bidding. The strange thing was that Lord Chunshin was still unmoved. He had not even raised a sign once. Ouyang Shuo's heart moved. It seemed that Lord Chunshin had obtained some insider information and was certain of one of the auction items. Although Ouyang Shuo did not have much need for the Iron Floating Armor Raiment, its functions overlapped with the Radiant Armor. The Armor Workshop was already struggling to make the Radiant Armor. How could they have the energy to make the Iron Floating Armor Raiment? However, Ouyang Shuo would not let Di-chun obtain the Iron Floating Armor Forging Technique Manual. Even if he could not use it, he could give it to his allies in the future. Just as Ouyang Shuo was about to bid, the silent Feng Qiuhuang suddenly shouted, 1,000 gold coins. Di-chun was startled. He suddenly reacted and pointed at Feng Qiuhuang angrily. You traitor. He was so angry that he couldn't speak. Feng Qiuhuang remained expressionless and ignored Di-chun's criticism. The surrounding players saw that Handan Alliance was having an internal conflict and were all laughing and watching the show. Feng Qiuhuang, don't be too smug. I won't let you have your way. Di-chun fiercely glared at Feng Qiuhuang. He then turned to Army Killer and said, Army Killer, lend me your funds. I don't believe that she has more funds than both of us. What outsiders didn't know was that amongst the original 6 lords of Handan, the one who was most afraid of Di-chun was actually Military Killer. As a representative of the gray area, he was most afraid of being suppressed by political groups like Di-chun. Once the political groups got serious, the gray people would be like rats on the street that everyone wanted to beat up. This was also the reason why Military Killer did not join Lord Chunshin during the split of the 6 lords of Handan. Military Killer's expression was somewhat ugly. In front of everyone, Di Chun actually used a commanding tone to ask him to hand over the funds that he had painstakingly gathered. This was undoubtedly a form of humiliation. But thinking that he still had to rely on others in reality, Military Killer unwillingly lent 700 gold coins to Di Chun. 1,200 gold coins. After obtaining Military Killer's funds, Di Chun looked at Feng Xiuhuang provocatively. 1,300 gold coins. Feng Xiuhuang was still unmoved. 1,400 gold coins. 1,500 gold coins. Di Chun looked at Feng Xiuhuang in shock. He didn't expect her to have such a large amount of funds. Even with the combined strength of the two of them, they still lost? No, he wasn't willing to give up. He shouted, 1,650 gold coins. This was already all the funds he had on hand. If he could succeed, it would all depend on this. Hearing Di Chun's bid, Feng Xiuhuang was finally moved. 1,500 gold coins was already her limit. She really wasn't willing to give up. She had already shed all pretense of cordiality, but she still didn't succeed. Just as she was about to give up, a system notification suddenly rang in her ears. System notification. Player Shiyu Wui has mailed you 500 gold coins. Do you accept? Accept. Feng Xiuhuang resisted the urge to look at Shiyu Wui and calmly shouted, 1,700 gold coins. Damn it. How did this woman get so much funds? Di Chun was exasperated. He turned to the players around him and shouted, which friend is willing to lend me 200 gold coins? Handan Town will definitely reward you handsomely. Needless to say, there really were some speculators who wanted to lend their funds to Di Chun and use this opportunity to curry favor with Di Chun. Most of the players remained neutral. Helping Di Chun would mean offending Feng Xiuhuang. It was really hard to say whether this deal was worth it or not. Seeing Di Chun's actions, Feng Xiuhuang was very calm. Huyu Wui mailed her 500 gold coins wasn't without purpose. It was just enough for her to buy it at a critical moment. She wasn't worried that Di Chun would compete with her after borrowing the funds. After all, Di Chun didn't know her background, so he definitely wouldn't dare to make a direct offer. Yoho, is this still the #1 lord in the Chinese server? You can't even take out a few hundred gold coins, and you still want to borrow from us small fries? How rare. Do you want to lend you some? Huh. The one who mocked Di Chun was the honest boy, Siege Lion. Di Chun's face darkened, and he glared at the Siege Lion. He was extremely angry. In the end, Di Chun didn't care about the Siege Lion's taunts, and patiently waited for the little fish to take the bait. System notification. Player writing a little girl has mailed you 200 gold coins. Do you accept? Accept. After receiving the funds, Di Chun was full of confidence. Looking at Feng Xiuhuang's expression, she was obviously at her limit. He still won this round. As for the clown Siege Lion, he would deal with him later. Di Chun proudly looked at Feng Xiuhuang and shouted, 1,800 gold coins. Feng Xiuhuang glanced at Di Chun and raised a red card in his hand, saying, fixed price. Huh. The entire hall roared with laughter. The current Di Chun was really a clown. He spent so much effort, offended Military Kill Ripper, and put aside his pride, but in the end, he still lost. Di Chun's face was ashen, and he returned the borrowed funds to Military Kill Ripper and riding a little girl. If it wasn't for the fact that he wanted to see the next few items, he would have left this place of shame. Battle Wolf's eyes flashed. As the representative of the military, he wasn't afraid of Di Chun. Di Chun also knew this in his heart, so he would rather borrow money from a stranger than look for Warwolf. Feng Xiuhuang and Di Chun had publicly broken off their relationship, and Military Kill Ripper was also at odds with Di Chun. Was there still a need for Handan Alliance to exist? What a headache. As the manipulator behind the scenes, Ouyang Shuo was in a good mood. The reason why he lent the funds to Feng Xiuhuang was because he didn't want Di Chun to get the iron floating armor forging technique manual, and also because Feng Xiuhuang had expressed her goodwill to him several times. Now that there was a chance, he naturally wanted to help her. Now, let's start the auction for the 8th item. The auctioneer didn't care about the competition between the players. He held a talisman in his hand and said, "This is a spring breeze talisman. It can directly turn 20,000 mu of simple farmland into fertile farmland. The starting price is 100 gold coins, and the fixed price is 500 gold coins. Thinking about the farmland in Pool Town, Ouyang Shua didn't plan to give up this time. In the end, he bought the talisman for 200 gold coins. For the 9th item, the auctioneer took out another scroll and said, "The 9th item is the Song Dynasty Infantry Armor Forging Technique Manual. The starting price is 400 gold coins, and the fixed price is 2,000 gold coins. Everyone, please place your bids." The Song Dynasty Infantry Armor was the strongest heavy infantry armor in the ancient cold weapon era. Of course, Ouyang Shua didn't want to miss out on such a good item. He immediately shouted, 1,000 gold coins. Hearing Ouyang Shua's bid, Lord Chunshin's heart relaxed. As long as Don't Say Wooey spends his funds on the Song Dynasty Infantry Armor Forging Technique Manual, then no one will be able to compete with him for the final item. 1,100 gold coins. Battle Wolf shouted. 1,200 gold coins. Battle Wolf's expression turned sluggish. He didn't expect that Who Said Wooey still had so much money left after spending 1,100 gold coins. This was really abnormal. He was still unwilling to give up. He directly called out his limit and shouted, 1,400 gold coins. Ouyang Shua glanced at the Battle Wolf. He didn't think that this guy would have such a strong capital. However, he didn't want to give up. He continued to shout, 1,500 gold coins. Battle Wolf was dispirited and gave up. As for borrowing money on the spot like Di Chun, with Battle Wolf's arrogance, he couldn't do it. He smiled bitterly and said, "Congratulations, brother Who Said Wooey. I give up." Ouyang Shua smiled and said, "Thank you, brother Battle Wolf." At this point, there was only one last item left. It was still a book. The auctioneer said, "The 10th item is the Song Dynasty Crossbow Making Technique Manual. The base price is 500 gold coins. The buyout price is 3,000 gold coins. Everyone, please bid." Ouyang Shua suddenly understood. No wonder Lord Chunshin didn't make a move. He was waiting for this. It was worthy of being called the final treasure. This book was different from the previous ones. It didn't only cover bows and crossbows. It also included all the crossbow-making techniques of the Song Dynasty. This was the strongest in all the dynasties of China. 1,500 gold coins. Lord Chunshin didn't want to give others a chance. 1,600 gold coins. Ouyang Shua was neither fast nor slow. Lord Chunshin's eyes narrowed. Who Said Wooey's fund were like a bottomless pit. He clenched his teeth and shouted, 2,000 gold coins. 2,100 gold coins. Lord Chunshin was really panicking. This was completely out of his expectations. He had no choice but to stake it all on one throw. He put up all his funds and shouted, 2,500 gold coins. Ouyang Shua was startled. He also began to lose confidence. He didn't know how much money Lord Chunshin had. If he forced this guy into a corner, he would be one step ahead of him and buy it at a fixed price. That would be a tragedy for him. Lord Chunshin stared at Ouyang Shua. Seeing Ouyang Shua firmly raise the red sign, his face instantly turned pale. This time, he had really lost everything. He had more than 2,000 gold coins, but returned empty-handed. Chapter 103 is almost equal to NB. The curtain fell. Some people were happy, while others were sad. 32473, 21,147, 25120, 320, 119, 87, 119, 46, 71, 101, 73, 76, 119, 120, 46, 67, 111, 109, square root, read square root, book, 230 greater than or NB. The one who failed the most was naturally Di Chun. Not only did he not win anything despite holding close to 1,000 gold coins, he also became the biggest laughingstock of this auction. His reputation was completely destroyed. NB. The one who was most disappointed was Lord Chunshin. He came with confidence and thought that he had everything under his control. Who would have thought that someone would come along and ruin his plans? In the end, he returned in disappointment. NB the luckiest was Feng Qiuhuang. Just as he was about to lose to Di Chun, he received Ouyang Shua's help at the crucial moment and won the Iron Floating Armor Forging Technique Manual. NB the wisest was Bai Hua. He consciously avoided the popular items and won the Wood Soul Orb at the lowest price. NB the one who received the most attention was naturally Ouyang Shu. He won 5 out of 10 items, monopolizing half of them. Furthermore, he obtained 3 sets of the precious weapon and equipment manuals, becoming the biggest winner. NB, as the auction ended, the news of what happened spread like wildfire throughout the China region through the mouths of the lords who participated in the auction. Hu says Wui defended his position as the overlord of the China region with his formidable financial strength. As for Di Chen's previous provocation towards Hu says Wui, it undoubtedly became a joke. In a short period of time, the direction of public opinion changed. This was Ouyang Shua's first public appearance. Apart from his impressive financial strength, he also attracted a lot of attention. During the intermission, his intimate conversation with Bai Hua, dragon-seeking acupuncture point, and siege lion also attracted a lot of attention. The repercussions did not stop there. After the auction, Feng Qiuhuang publicly announced his withdrawal from the Handan Alliance. The dispute between Di Chun and Feng Qiuhuang during the auction had already evolved into countless versions. Most of the lords did not approve of Di Chen's arrogance. They felt that Di Chun thought too highly of himself as the leader of the alliance. Therefore, the public was overwhelmingly supportive of Feng Qiuhuang's withdrawal. In a short period of time, the Handan Alliance was on the verge of collapse. The players were guessing how long the Handan Alliance could last. Living up to everyone's expectations, Wolf Warriors dealt a fatal blow to Handan Alliance. Following closely behind Feng Qiuhuang, Battle Wolf also announced that they would be withdrawing from the Handan Alliance, roping in a few of the Jianye region's lords to form the Iron Blood Alliance. After Lord Chunshin split, the once glorious 6 hegemons of Handan once again suffered heavy losses. Only Di Chun and Sha Pejun were left, which meant that they only existed in name. Just when everyone thought that the Handan Alliance was about to disband, Di Chun unexpectedly announced that Lao Ai, who also belonged to the capital, would lead his Wanshi town to join the Handan Alliance. In the previous territorial defense battle, Baiyan had ranked 10th in the China region. His strength was even higher than Bai Hua's, so he was not to be underestimated. With the addition of Lao Ai, the Handan Alliance was able to continue. However, after losing Feng Qiuhuang and Battle Wolf, their 2 pillars, their strength was no longer as strong as before. They couldn't even compare to the Spring and Autumn Alliance. Ouyang Shu didn't stay idle either. After the auction, he immediately added the Siege Lion and Dragon seeking acupuncture points into the alliance. Under Bai Hua's suggestion, the alliance was officially named the Alliance of Mountains and Seas, with Ouyang Shu as its leader. The members of the Alliance of Mountains and Seas consisted of Ouyang Shua's Shanhai Town, Bai Hua's Lingxi Town, Mulan Yu's Mulan Town, Dragon Seeking Town, and Black Lion Town. Because Mulan Yu's territory had just been upgraded to a level 1 town, she didn't even have 200 gold coins on hand, so she missed the auction. After learning about the auction, he even sent a messenger pigeon to Ouyang Shu to congratulate him. After the establishment of the Shan and Hai Alliance, Ouyang Shu made a promise to the members that the Shan and Hai Town would prioritize the supply of weapons and equipment, including tang sabers, infantry armors, and all sorts of bows. As for the radiant armor, it was not on the list. Firstly, the craftsmanship of the radiant armor was complicated, and the Shanghai town could barely satisfy its own needs. Secondly, Ouyang Shu viewed the future radiant armor heavy cavalry unit as the future trump card of the Shanghai town. This was the most important trump card, and he did not want to easily share it with others, even if they were his allies. In order to form a deterrent, Ouyang Shu didn't hide the news of the alliance. The Mountain and Sea Alliance was officially revealed and immediately surpassed the Handan Alliance, the Spring and Autumn Alliance, and the Iron Blood Alliance to become the #1 alliance in the China region. With the existence of the alliance of mountains and seas, Dechen wouldn't be able to touch the siege lions so easily. All of a sudden, the situation in the China region was changing. The drama was happening one after another, dazzling everyone's eyes. Is almost equal to NB. April 1st, 2 o'clock in the afternoon. System announcement. Official currency exchange platform has been officially opened. Please check it out yourself. Through the currency exchange platform, players could put their in-game coins on the platform at any time. All players had to do was bind the game currency, and after deducting the 2% processing fee, the credits earned from the game currency would automatically be transferred to the player. It was very convenient and fast. With this exchange platform, it would be much easier for people like Dechen to purchase gold coins. Fortunately, Ouyang Shua had anticipated this and had prepared a countermeasure in advance. System announcement. In order to facilitate transactions between players, the real-time auction platform has been officially opened. Players can enter the player-exclusive auction platform through the auction hall in the Royal City or the mid-tier market in the territory. The system will charge 15% transaction tax. Please check it out yourself. The launch of the real-time auction platform would greatly facilitate transactions between adventure-type players and lord-type players, as well as between lord-type players. Adventure-type players could put up special items for their territory, such as special items, such as territory special scrolls, and sell them to lord-type players on the real-time auction platform. Correspondingly, lord-type players could also make use of their advantages and sell the weapons forged by the weapon workshops to adventure-type players through the real-time auction platform in order to obtain construction funds. Between lord-type players, they could exchange what they needed through the real-time auction platform. The China region was vast and had a variety of terrains. The distribution of resources in the players' territories was also very different. Some territories were rich in iron ore but lacked in wood. Some territories were the opposite, rich in wood but lacked iron ore. The real-time auction platform provided an opportunity for both parties to exchange what they needed. More importantly, the transaction tax of the real-time auction platform was 5% lower than a market trading platform. After the auction, Ouyang Shua took stock of his funds. In the entire auction, including the 500 gold lent to Feng Xiaohuang, he had spent a total of 6,100 gold coins, leaving 1,470 gold coins. Of the 5 items that were auctioned, the Tang Saber Forging Technique Manual was handed over to the Weapon Workshop. The Substitution Doll was automatically placed in the storage bag. The Spring Breeze Rain Talisman was handed over to the Pool Town, and the Song Dynasty Infantry Armor Forging Technique Manual was handed over to the Armor Workshop. The most troublesome item was the last item, Song Dynasty Bow Technique Manual. Bows involve carpenters, blacksmiths, leathersmiths, and bow makers. Hence, they needed to establish a department to supervise the manufacturing of bows, just like the radiant armor. For this, Ouyang Shua summoned the various officers of the military office to the meeting hall for a discussion. Ouyang Shua looked around and said, "We've gained a lot from this auction. We've obtained the urgently needed weapons, infantry armor, and bow technique manuals. How to turn these manuals into tangible advantages and form a complete military industry is the most important thing for the military office. For this, I've decided to establish a bow department under the military office to supervise the manufacturing of bows. The weapon workshop, the armor workshop, and the bow department will be the 3 pillars of the military industry. They will be responsible for the forging of weapons, armor, and bows respectively." Ouyang Shua turned to look at Ge Hongliang and said, "Division Leader Ge, I'll leave the establishment of the bow department to you, including the appointment of the division leaders. I hope that the bow department will be established within a week." "Don't worry, sir. I'll personally oversee this matter," Ge Hongliang replied. Ouyang Shua nodded and said, "That's good. The bow department cannot be less than 300 people. Division Leader Ge will need to coordinate the training of various skilled apprentices, and there cannot be any mistakes. My request is to ensure that every soldier in the army is equipped with a bow. Infantry will be equipped with longbows, while cavalry will be equipped with bows. Divine arms, and those used to defend the city will be the main weapons. Especially, we must prioritize research and install them on the walls as soon as possible, including the walls of Friendship Town. Not long from now, there will be a fierce battle to defend the city. We cannot be careless. Understood. Also, in order to mass produce the bows, the tendons and horns will be a big problem. Division Leader Ge, you must arrange for the cavalry to go hunting frequently and hunt large amounts of wild bison for their tendons and horns. Ouyang Shua continued to instruct. Go Hongliang said confidently, that won't be a problem. The cavalry is already in place and can be mobilized at any time. Very good. Su Kuan, how many blacksmith apprentices does the weapon workshop train? Ouyang Shua asked, replying to Sir. Last month, the weapon workshop sent a total of 20 beginner blacksmiths to the armor workshop. Currently, there are 50 apprentices. Su Kuan replied. Ouyang Shua shook his head and said unhappily, not enough, far from enough. This month, we need to send at least 100 beginner blacksmiths to the armor workshop, 30 to the bow department, and the weapon workshop itself needs to keep 50 beginner blacksmiths. Can you do it? C is identical to C is identical to Su Kuan nodded awkwardly and said, I'll do my best. It's not your best, but you must do it. If you're short of people, you can ask for them from the census department. I'll let them know. If you can't do it, I'll remove you from your position. Do you understand? Ouyang Shua said seriously. Yes, I promise to complete the task. In the end, Ouyang Shua looked at Zhao Yufeng of the War Preparation Department and said, the War Preparation Department needs to coordinate with the Material Reserve Department on the mining of iron ore. Also, we need to contact the Material Reserve Department to find suitable wood for the bows and spears. Yes, I promise to complete the task. Zhao Yufeng said loudly. Very good. Then that's it. Everyone, go back to work. I hope to see your results in a month. Ouyang Shua said. Yes, sir. Font. Chapter 104 is almost equal to and beyond the 2nd of April. Friendship Town, with the help of the headquarters, had finally completed the construction of the city walls. Until the completion, the nomadic tribes did not notice that a military fortress had been quietly built to the south of them. In order to further strengthen the defensive capabilities of Friendship Town, Ouyang Shua sent an official letter to Zhou Haichun, requesting him to start the construction of the moat. The scale of the moat was based on the headquarters, from the Friendship River in the west to the Qiushui River in the east, forming a large arc that surrounded Friendship Town. In this way, Friendship Town would be surrounded by water on all sides. With the support of the Navy, they would be able to advance and retreat at will. They would be in an invincible position. Before Friendship Town was completely turned into a military fortress, Ouyang Shua was not prepared to make contact with the nomadic tribes. After settling the matters of Friendship Town, Ouyang Shua set off for the Mystic Bird Tribe with Go Hongliang and Tian Wenjing. Li Mingliang led the first squadron of the cavalry battalion and was responsible for the security along the way. As they passed by Pool Town, Ouyang Shua stopped for an hour to listen to Zhao Dexian's report on the recent work of Pool Town. He also took the time to inspect the newly formed cavalry battalion of Pool Town. Seeing that the Qingming festival was approaching, Zhao Daxian, as the food base of the territory, had already started various preparations for spring sowing. The original plan of 20,000 mu of farmland had already been completed. Under the effect of the spring breeze rain talisman, all of it had become fertile farmland. These 20,000 mu of farmland would all be planted with rice. Apart from the farmland, Pool Town had also built a large lumber yard in the forest area to the south. The wood here was of a higher quality than that of the headquarters. The wood was denser and the storage was more abundant. Currently, the wood needed for the advanced shipyard across the river was completely from the lumber yard in Pool Town. Because it was about to enter the busy farming season, the construction of the city walls had to be temporarily put on hold. After the spring sowing was over, the construction would start again. Fortunately, the area was relatively peaceful, so it did not matter much if the construction was delayed. At 11 o'clock in the morning, after 2 hours of trekking, Ouyang Shua and his party finally arrived at the Mystic Bird tribe. Unlike the cold reception they received last time, the chief of the tribe, Shi Xiong, personally welcomed Ouyang Shua and his party outside the village. "My lord, welcome to the Mystic Bird tribe," Shi Xiong said enthusiastically. This was the magic of food. Ever since the Mystic Bird tribe cooperated with the Shanghai town, they had an abundance of food, and no one in the tribe had to go hungry. As the chief, Shi Xiong naturally changed his attitude and no longer dared to put on airs in front of Ouyang Shua. However, if Shi Xiong knew that what they had obtained was not even 1/30th of the Wolf Mountain Mine's output, who knew what he would think? Ouyang Shua, the capitalist, smiled and said without batting an eyelid, "Greetings to the leader, greetings to the great shaman. Everything is fine, please." Shi Xiong led the way in front, and Ouyang Shua walked shoulder to shoulder with him into the stronghold. After the members of both sides met in the stronghold's meeting hall, Ouyang Shua left Tian Wenjing and Shi Xiong to discuss the matter regarding the in-depth cooperation between Shanghai Town and the Mystic Bird tribe. He got up and went to the stronghold's ancestral temple to visit the great shaman. The ancestral temple was built at the highest point of the stronghold. There were more than 200 steps. Ascending the steps, the great shaman welcomed Ouyang Shua at the entrance. This was an old man with one foot in the grave. His eyes were turbid, and it seemed like he was about to enter the grave. Such an old man was the spiritual leader of the Mystic Bird tribe and was revered by the tribesmen. "Guests from afar, welcome." The great shaman's voice was hoarse. Ouyang Shua didn't dare to be negligent and said sincerely, "Greetings to the great shaman. The gift from the great shaman last time was a great help to Shanghai Town. In order to express my gratitude, I specially prepared a small gift. I hope the great shaman will kindly accept it." Ouyang Shua took out a luminous pearl from his storage pouch and handed it to the young shaman beside the great shaman. This luminous pearl was obtained when they annihilated a large bandit camp. The young shaman had never seen such a treasure and was so shocked that he didn't dare to accept it. "Lord is too polite. Such a precious gift, I really don't deserve it." The great shaman gestured for the young shaman to accept it, and then led Ouyang Shua forward, saying, "Lord, please follow me." The ancestral temple of the Mystic Bird tribe was completely built with stone masonry and was a relatively complete building complex. An outsider like Ouyang Shua naturally couldn't enter the main hall of the ancestral temple, and the two of them went to the reception room next to the ancestral temple. "Great shaman, the Shanghai town is willing to establish a friendly and cooperative relationship with the various tribes in the mountain. I wonder if the great shaman is willing to mediate between them?" After the small talk, Ouyang Shua went straight to the main topic. The great shaman opened his turbid eyes, and a bright light flashed, and said, "Our Mystic Bird tribe is in contact with the surrounding 4 tribes. Since Lord has this idea, this old man will invite them. In that case, many thanks to the great shaman." Ouyang Shua was overjoyed. When leaving the Mystic Bird tribe, Ouyang Shua left Tian Wenjing behind and let him be in charge of negotiating with the other tribes, and the specific content of the cooperation could be carried out according to the Mystic Bird tribe. At the same time, in order to express his gratitude to Ouyang Shua for the luminous pearl, the great shaman gave Ouyang Shua a pair of hummingbirds from the Mystic Bird tribe. These hummingbirds were extremely intelligent and could transmit messages over long distances. Is almost equal to NB. On the 3rd of April, the Shanghai town harvested the potatoes. Because the land was barren, the potato yield was only about 1,000 units per mu. 2,000 mu of land produced a total of 1 million units of potatoes. The territory collected 70,000 units of potatoes in the form of agricultural taxes, and Ouyang Shua gave all of them to the War Preparedness Department to be used as military rations. With this batch of potatoes, along with some grains and meat, the food crisis of the Shanghai town was finally resolved, and there was no longer a need to purchase food from the market on a large scale. After harvesting the potatoes, Ouyang Shua did not plant rice on the 2,000 mu of land, but ordered the Department of Agriculture to arrange for all the farmers to plant cotton. As the saying goes, clothing, food, shelter, and transportation, not a single one can be missing. The current Shanghai town still relied heavily on purchasing cloth from the market and did not have the ability to be self-sufficient. As for the silkworm industry that the Textile Association was cultivating, the industry had yet to take shape, and silk was a rare and expensive cloth and was not suitable for large-scale promotion in the territory. Cotton was different. With it, the territory could skip the hemp cloth and directly use cotton. Therefore, it was imperative to plant cotton. It just so happened that the 2,000 mu of land was not fertile, and if they planted rice, the profits would be limited, so it was better to plant cotton, which had lower soil requirements. Is almost equal to NB. On the 4th of April, after the great shaman of the mystic bird tribe mediated, another 3 mountain barbarian tribes agreed to cooperate with the Shanghai town. The scale of these 3 tribes was slightly smaller than the mystic bird tribe, with only 2,000 people. Another tribe rejected the great shaman's invitation. That tribe was called the Swift Wind tribe, and it was larger than the mystic bird tribe, with more than 5,000 people. After knowing that the mystic bird tribe had attached themselves to the Shanghai town, they regarded themselves as the representatives of the Shanghai town and were very indignant, so they refused to cooperate with the Shanghai town. With the 3 tribes joining the alliance, the number of miners in the Wolf Mountain mine increased to 5,000. Basically, the capacity of the Wolf Mountain mine had already reached a state of saturation, and adding more miners would be somewhat redundant. Because the Swift Wind tribe refused to cooperate with the Shanghai town, Ouyang Shua had no choice but to strengthen the defense of the Wolf Mountain mine. 300 young and strong men were selected from each tribe, and together with the 2 previous companies, they were reorganized into the Wolf Mountain Guard Battalion, with the Mystic Bird tribe's Shi Lang as the battalion commander. The other company leader, Shi Bao, was transferred to the Shanghai town's headquarters. Other than participating in the operation of the Wolf Mountain mine, the 3 tribes sent a total of 500 of their most elite barbarian warriors to join the army of the Shanghai town's headquarters. For this, Ouyang Shua chose 200 soldiers from the Shanghai town's residents and combined them with the 3 previous infantry companies, forming 2 infantry battalions at once. Inside the Shanghai town's meeting hall, Ouyang Shua announced the personnel changes of the infantry. Zhao Si, here we are. I order you to use the original 1st Company of the Infantry Battalion as the core, in addition to the 200 soldiers from the Shanghai town, and choose another 200 people from the barbarian tribes to form the Shanghai town City Defense Battalion, Ouyang Shua said. Zhao Sihu was a little confused. Yes, not bad. The main responsibility of the City Defense Battalion is to protect the headquarters, and the military camp is set up within the city. In order to adapt to the requirements of defending the City Defense Battalion consists of 2 archer companies, 2 hand companies, and 1 sword and shield company. The original 1st Company is the Sword and Shield Company, and the 200 people from the Shanghai town are trained to be the hand company. The barbarian hunters are good at archery, so they are trained to be the Archer Company, Ouyang Shua explained. Don't worry, sir. I promise to complete the mission, Zhao Sihu said loudly. Ouyang Shua turned to look at Shi Wansui and said, General Shi, this general is here. Please give your orders, my lord. I order you to use the original 2nd and 3rd companies as the core, in addition to the 300 elite soldiers sent by the tribes to form a heavy infantry battalion made up of barbarian warriors. Heavy infantry? But we don't have heavy armor. Shi Wansui was also confused. Ouyang Shua shook his head and said, Who said we don't have heavy armor? The armor workshop is speeding up the production of infantry armor, and the weapons workshop is also forging tang swords. These 2 main battle equipment will be given priority to the heavy infantry battalion. The other generals immediately looked at Shi Wansui with envy. Not to mention the infantry armor, that thing weighed 29 kilograms, and only the barbarians could carry it. However, the tang swords were standard equipment, regardless of whether it was the cavalry battalion, the City Defense Battalion, or the Navy Battalion. They could all be equipped with tang swords. Who would have thought that the heavy infantry battalion would take the lead? Sure Wansui laughed and said excitedly, "Then there's no problem. Thank you for your support, my lord." The heavy infantry battalion's barracks will be outside the city. During this period of time, the general needs to strengthen their training, especially the weight training. I don't want your soldiers to be unable to carry the heavy armor when the time comes. That would be a joke. Ouyang Shua continued. Don't worry, my lord. This general will train them fiercely. Ouyang Shua nodded and said, Then I'll wait and see. When you're truly equipped to fight, I will personally give the heavy infantry battalion a name. This was a great honor. Up until now, there hadn't been a battalion in Shanghai town that had their own name. From this, it could be seen how much importance Ouyang Shua placed on the heavy infantry battalion. Soldiers viewed honor as their lives. Sure Wansue's blood was boiling, and he loudly said, I will definitely not let my lord down. Fawn. Chapter 105. April 5th was China's traditional festival, the Qingming Festival. After breakfast, Ouyang Shua brought Bing-er to the cemetery to sweep the graves of his relatives. To his surprise, his aunt, Lin Jing, made a special trip from Shanghai to Jiaozhou to sweep the graves of his grandparents. The night before her aunt left Jiaozhou, the two of them had a rather deep conversation in her hotel room. Little Shua, you still won't tell me your in-game ID? Lin Jing asked angrily. Ouyang Shua was in a difficult position. His aunt clearly wanted to lay her cards on the table. After the system auction, Ouyang Shua discovered that he had become more and more confident, especially the establishment of the alliance of mountains and seas, which made his influence in the game more stable. Looking at his relatives, Ouyang Shua's expression was complicated. He sighed and chose to believe her in the end. He said solemnly, Aunt, I can tell you my in-game ID, but you have to promise me that you won't tell anyone, including your partner, Xie Siyun. You can't even tell Siyun? That's right. What are you doing? Why are you being so secretive? His aunt was a little indignant. Ouyang Shua couldn't help but be cautious. He said again, Aunt, I need a clear answer. Lin Jing was startled. Feeling Ouyang Shua's determination, she calmed down and said, Fine, I promise you that I won't tell anyone about your in-game ID, including Siyun. Can you tell me now? Little Shua, if you can't give me a satisfactory answer, I'll teach you a lesson. Ouyang Shua nodded. He understood his aunt's character. Just like his deceased mother, he had inherited his grandmother's good qualities. She would never go back on her word and would never go back on her word. Have you heard of Dayue Wui? Ouyang Shua asked. Of course. Who doesn't know him? He's the #1 feudal lord in China. Why are you working for him? His aunt asked curiously. Ouyang Shua coughed and said calmly, I am Dui. What? His aunt stood up in shock and said in disbelief, What did you say? Dayue Wui? Today isn't April Fool's Day. Don't lie to me. Ouyang Shua had long since expected his aunt's reaction, and he still said calmly, Do you think there's a need for me to lie to you about this? Lin Jing looked at her nephew in disbelief as if she was looking at a little monster. Seeing that Ouyang Shua was still calm, she muttered, No wonder you don't want to tell me your ID. So that's how it is. Heavens, what kind of freak is this? Ouyang Shua had an embarrassed expression on his face. He was truly helpless towards this little aunt of his. He bitterly smiled and said, Little aunt, I'm your nephew. How can you speak of me like this? Isn't it difficult? The outside world is guessing which mysterious family's descendant who said Wu Yi is. Who would have thought that it's actually a commoner like you? Little aunt was still a little excited. Ouyang Shua burst into laughter and said, Nobles, generals, and ministers, do they have guts? Lin Jing was startled once again. She sized Ouyang Shua up again and said in a rare tone, Not bad. It seems that Ani has really underestimated you before. Little Shua, it's not by chance that you can achieve such results. Ouyang Shua didn't want to be entangled on this topic, so he changed the topic and asked, Auntie, you called me to enter this game before. Do you have any inside information? Sure enough, Lin Jing's attention was diverted by Ouyang Shua's question, and she explained, Yes, Siyun and I have participated in the internal testing of this game. According to Siyun's speculation, this game should be very unusual. There are too many unreasonable and abnormal aspects. It's definitely not as simple as a game. Therefore, the studio resolutely stopped other games and fully devoted itself to this game. Ouyang Shua nodded. He really admired Xie Siyun's decisiveness. Xie Siyun was able to make the correct judgment under the situation where she didn't have complete information. She was indeed worthy of being the head of the second largest mercenary group in China. As for this game, I've learned a little bit about it by chance. I can't say anything else, but at least your choice is correct. Also, I want to remind you that the currency exchange platform has been opened, right? If your studio isn't short of money, try not to sell those hard-earned gold coins. Ouyang Shua tactfully reminded. With a puzzled expression, Lin Jing curiously asked, why? Isn't our studio's purpose in playing games to earn money by selling game coins? Little Shua, since you're able to achieve such results in the game, do you know any inside information? Quickly tell Ani. Ouyang Shua shook his head and said, I've said everything I can. It's up to your studio whether you want to listen to my advice or not. As for the other information, Auntie, you don't need to ask. I won't tell you even if you ask. There's no such thing as an impenetrable wall in this world. If you don't pay attention, you might lose everything. For safety's sake, whether it's in the game or in real life, it's better for us to contact each other less. Let's wait for the right time. Lin Jing looked at Ouyang Shua as though she was looking at a stranger. She couldn't imagine when a boy who used to be so innocent had become so mature and could say such words. She seemed to see Xie Siyun's shadow in Ouyang Shua. What do you mean by the right time? Lin Jing couldn't help but curiously ask. Ouyang Shua shook his head again and said, Buddha said, I can't say it. I can't say it. Lin Jing dispiritedly gave up on pestering Ouyang Shua and helplessly said, all right, since you're so insistent, then you must have your own difficulties. Ani won't force you. Knowing that you're doing so well in the game, Ani is relieved. As for your suggestion, I'll consider it when I get back. Thank you for your understanding, Auntie, Ouyang Shua said with a gratified expression. All right, I can't stay in Jiaozhou for long. I'll fly back to Shanghai early tomorrow morning. You should also rest early. His aunt finally said. All right, rest early, Ani. Good night. Ouyang Shua got up and bid his farewell. Good night. After leaving the hotel, Ouyang Shua didn't take a taxi home, but chose to walk instead. In any case, the hotel wasn't far from the Heavenly Court district. Walking on the busy street, Ouyang Shua looked pensive as he looked at the colorful and bustling night scene. After coming to a showdown with his aunt, his heart suddenly felt a lot more relaxed, as though a heavy shackle had been removed. It was really tiring to guard such an important secret alone. During this period of time, there was a storm brewing in the game, and it wasn't calm in real life either. The news of Song when purchasing land according to Ouyang Shua's method was first known by the Song Consortium's ally, the Ruan Consortium. Ruan Ping quickly followed the method and successfully purchased a level 3 village. Following that, the news spread like wildfire, quickly spreading through the circle of medium-sized forces. In an instant, there was a wave of land purchases in the game. Every day, there would be so-called lucky people who became billionaires overnight, creating one legend after another that became rich overnight. Among these people, there were naturally those who couldn't bear to be left out and took the initiative to show off on the forums or even the mainstream media. Just like that, news of consortiums purchasing gaming territories at high prices kept coming out, pushing the game Earth on Lu to the forefront. The people were all curious about what kind of magic this game had to be able to make these financial groups invest so much money into it. Ordinary people were just there to watch the excitement. At most, there were those who were curious or ambitious who used this as an excuse to join the army of the game. As for the medium-sized forces and countless small forces who didn't have insider information, they couldn't sit still. They racked their brains to find out the truth behind the matter. In a society like China, the entire society was like a big net, and the relationships between the forces were complicated. With the intention to find out, The secret information could no longer be hidden. It spread to the small forces in advance. This further intensified the wave of land purchases in the game. Such a large-scale movement finally alerted the people. Some people with a keen sense of smell questioned the federal government, demanding that they step forward and give everyone an explanation. At this point, the federal government could only speed up the immigration preparations and do a good job of public relations. As for the so-called explanation, that naturally didn't exist. The government publicly announced that the purchase of land in the game was entirely a business activity of the enterprises, and the federal government wouldn't interfere. Ouyang Shua didn't expect that he would inadvertently cause such a chain reaction, and he didn't know if it was a blessing or a curse. It was already 9 o'clock at night when he returned home, and Binger was still awake. The little girl had been listless the entire day and couldn't lift her spirits at all. Only when she saw her aunt did she feel a little happy. Ouyang Shua knew that Binger was a thoughtful child. On a day like today, she must be missing her parents. After coaxing Binger to sleep, it was already 10 o'clock at night. Ouyang Shua quickly washed up and logged into the game. In the game, it was also the tomb sweeping day. Early in the morning, the military office had already gone to the cemetery to sweep the graves of the fallen soldiers on behalf of Lord Ouyang Shua. At 3 o'clock in the afternoon, the mayor of Pool Town, Zhao Daxian, sent someone to report that when the herb farmers went out to collect herbs, they found a large wild tea garden on the mountain to the south. According to the herb farmer's description, the back of the leaves of the tea tree were covered with white hairs, which should be the famous Baihao tea in Guangxi. Ouyang Shua was shocked. This Baihao tea would still be very famous even in modern society. With this, the basic building of a level 3 town would finally have a tea garden. Such a tea tree needed to grow on the high mountains between the clouds. Therefore, Ouyang Shua didn't consider transplanting it, but ordered Zhao Daxian to personally bring professional tea farmers to inspect it. If the situation was true, and it was really Baihao tea, then they would build a tea garden in the mountains. Chapter 106. On the 6th of April, Feng Qiuhuang finally raised another 500 gold coins through the currency exchange platform. Without any delay, she mailed it to Ouyang Shua. Along with the gold coins, there was also a letter of thanks. After receiving the gold coins, Ouyang Shua called Ing Yu and the Bank of Four Seas manager, Yang Yun. Apart from keeping 500 gold coins as a backup, he handed over the remaining 1,000 gold coins to the Bank of Four Seas. Ouyang Shua looked at Ing Yu and said, "There are two things that the Finance Bureau needs to do with this fund. The first was to set up branches of the bank in North Sea Town, Pool Town, and Friendship Town to provide low-interest loan services to the citizens there. Secondly, increase the support for the rival industries, workshops, and shops to encourage them to expand their operations and promote the economic prosperity of the territory." Ing Yu nodded and smiled. "Don't worry, big brother. With the injection of this fund, the Finance Bureau can finally go all out this time. The detailed economic stimulus plan has been drawn up perfectly under the leadership of the Commerce Bureau's director, Elder Su. Previously, it was only due to the financial pressure that we didn't implement it." "That's good." Ouyang Shua nodded in relief and turned to look at Yang Yun. "I acknowledge your ability. Now, I'll hand you a heavier responsibility. Among the 3 subsidiary territories, Beihai Town is the first to start and is expected to be promoted to a second-class town soon. Therefore, I want you to head to Beihai Town personally and manage the Bank of Four Seas branch there. How about it? Are you confident?" Yang Yun replied excitedly. "Thank you for your trust, sir. I won't let you down." "Good. That's what I need." Ouyang Shua praised and said to Ing Yu, "I won't interfere with who will be stationed at the Pool Town and Friendship Town branches. You just need to keep an eye on them, Yu." "Don't worry, big brother." Ing Yu is still as straightforward as ever. In the next 10 days, the army and the headquarters reorganized and trained while going out to wipe out the roving bandits and water bandits in the territory to increase their combat experience. After a few bloody battles, the 8 platoon leaders were promoted to junior generals. At this point, all the platoon leaders in Shanghai Town were well-deserved and no longer had to wear the title of acting platoon leader. Ouyang Shua kept 1,500 gold coins for himself and handed the rest over to the Supplies Reserve Department and the Finance Department to handle. After two major sweeps, not a single living bandit could be seen in the 1,000 square kilometers of land in Shanghai town. Even wild animals, such as wild boars and buffaloes, suffered and were slaughtered by the army. The end of this sweep meant that the spring offensive plan that was previously formulated had officially come to an end. While the army was reporting good news, the government was not to be left behind. After more than a month, the territory renewal project was finally completed. The wide bluestone roads, the rows of buildings made of bluestone bricks and red tiles, and a magnificent town square all displayed the prosperity of Shanghai town. After the advanced shipyard's upgrade was completed, they immediately began the construction of the Mengchong fighting ship. Up until now, they had already delivered 2 Mengchong battleships to the Navy. On average, they could build 1 ship per week. A single Mengchong battleship could carry a squadron of soldiers. Hence, they needed to build at least 3 more to satisfy the needs of the Navy. Apart from that, there was also good news from the 3 subsidiary territories. Beihai Town was the first to be promoted to a second-class town, and the population limit was raised to 5,000. For this, Ouyang Shua specially spent 1,000 gold coins to purchase a blueprint of a large port and requested Beihai Town to start the construction of the Beihai port. With Beihai Town's strength, even if they went all out, they would not be able to complete such a huge construction project without a month's time. Just like the ferry and the pier, the port was a special building. The blueprint of a small port was sold for 10 gold coins, and so on. The blueprint of a large port would cost 1,000 gold coins, which was twice the price of an advanced shipyard. Pool Town still needed half a month before it could be promoted to a second-class town. Fortunately, the construction of the Baihao Tea Garden, which was located at the top of the southern peak, had already been completed. Late March to early April was the season to pick the Baihao tea leaves. Zhao Dexin naturally would not miss it. He immediately arranged for the tea farmers to pick the leaves, and it was nearing the end. As expected, the Baihao tea leaves were recognized by the system as a specialty of the territory and could be sold through the general store. In order to promote the economic development of Pool Town, Ouyang Shua placed the Baihao Tea Garden under the jurisdiction of Pool Town, and the profits would be converted into the revenue of Pool Town. Zhao Dexin was also tactful. After the tea garden was built, he circled the few top-quality Baihao tea trees as tribute tea. They would not be sold to the public, but to the Lord's mansion. As for the Friendship Town that was finally completed, all the basic buildings had been completed. Now, they were focusing on digging the moat. Due to the large scale of the project, there was still some time before it could be completed. Currently, the external industries of the Friendship Town were almost zero. They needed the continuous support from the headquarters to maintain the town's operations. On the 15th of April, an urgent report came from the Wolf Mountain mine. The Swift Wind tribe brought people to the Wolf Mountain mine to cause destruction. They had a conflict with the Wolf Mountain garrison camp, and more than 40 people were killed or injured. After Ouyang Shua received the news, he was extremely furious. He swore that he would return the favor and teach these arrogant people of the Swift Wind tribe a lesson. 2 o'clock in the afternoon, Shanghai Town's meeting hall. Ouyang Shua summoned the military office and the 3 battalion commanders for an emergency military meeting. He looked around and said in a low voice, "I'm sure everyone knows that the Wolf Mountain mine was attacked. This is a naked provocation to Shanghai Town. We must punish the Swift Wind tribe severely. We cannot let this go. Master, please give the order. We must destroy the Swift Wind tribe's nest this time." The hot-tempered Shi Wansui was the first to ask for battle. "That's right. Master, the city defense camp is willing to be the vanguard." Zhao Sihu didn't want to fall behind. Only Lin Yi's face was gloomy. He said unwillingly, "Master, the cavalry camp asks for battle." Ouyang Shua shook his head and said directly, "The expedition to the Swift Wind tribe this time will be through mountains and jungles. It's not suitable for cavalry to fight. The cavalry camp will stay in the headquarters this time and take over the city defense camp's guard duty." We have been suppressing bandits frequently during this period of time and have already formed blood feuds with all the roving bandits. I don't want our headquarters to be destroyed by the bandits after the expedition. General Lin, the cavalry camp has a heavy responsibility. Don't let your guard down. Yes, Lin Yi said helplessly. Ouyang Shua didn't pay attention to Shi Wan Sui and Zhao Sihu, the two warmongers. He turned to the military office and asked, "Did the military office collect information on the Swift Wind tribe before?" Dog Sanzi, who had officially changed his name to Song San, stood up and said, "Master, ever since the Swift Wind tribe rejected our invitation to cooperate, the military office has begun to consciously collect information on them." "Very good. How about it? Tell everyone about them," Ouyang Shua said approvingly. Song San began to report. In this mountainous area between Lianzhou and Lingnan, there are a total of 95 mountain barbarian tribes of various sizes. They're divided into two large regions, the south and the north. The northern and southern regions are each led by a tribe of 10,000 people. The barbarians we have encountered now are all mountain barbarians at the edge of the southern region. There are a total of 40 tribes in the southern region. They are slightly weaker than the northern region and are led by the Tiango tribe. Under the Tiango tribe, there are 4 large tribes with between 10,000 and 5,000 people, 10 medium-sized tribes with between 5,000 and 3,000 people, and 25 small tribes with less than 3,000 people. Therefore, as one of the 4 large tribes in the southern region, the Swift Wind tribe is the natural overlord of this region. Naturally, they won't submit to a medium-sized tribe like the Mystic Bird tribe. The Swift Wind tribe has more than 5,400 people. Their totem is Swift, and their surname is Huan. The chief of the tribe is called Huan Tai. He has just been appointed and is said to be less than 30 years old. As the tribe's main fighting force, the hunting team has 800 people. This subordinate speculates that the attack on the Wolf Mountain mine was done by the Swift Wind tribe's hunting team. Ouyang Shua expressed his satisfaction with the military office's big picture view. The military office was able to analyze the motive of the Swift Wind tribe's attack on the Wolf Mountain mine from the overall distribution of the mountain barbarians. What is the geographical situation of the Swift Wind tribe? What about the fortifications of the village? Gu Hongliang was obviously more concerned about these questions. Song Sen nodded. The Swift Wind tribe is located 20 kilometers east of the Mystic Bird tribe. The tribe's location is similar to a valley, surrounded by mountains on 3 sides. There is only one exit in the west. At this exit, the Swift Wind tribe has built a checkpoint. Therefore, if we want to attack the Swift Wind tribe, we must first take down the checkpoint. Go Hongliang frowned. This kind of terrain was easy to defend and hard to attack. It was really troublesome. He asked unwillingly, "How tall are the mountains on the 3 sides? Can we climb over them?" Song San shook his head. "That's impossible. Although the mountains can't be compared to our side, they are still 500 to 600 meters tall. Moreover, the mountains are covered with dense forests. It's hard to pass through, not to mention climbing over them. Since that's the case, then we can only attack them by force. As long as we take down the checkpoint, the Swift Wind tribe will be like a turtle in a jar. We will be able to trample on them." Ouyang Shua suddenly said. Go Hongliang nodded. "My lord, which tribes are you planning to send to participate in this operation?" The other generals also looked at Ouyang Shua anxiously. Ouyang Shua didn't let everyone down. He said loudly, "In this attack on the Swift Wind tribe, the infantry camp and the city defense camp will be the main force. The Wolf Mountain garrison camp will be added as support. The garrison of Pool Town and Friendship Town will not be mobilized this time. Stay at home and guard them." Shi Wan Sui and Zhao Sihu's faces were filled with excitement. Only Lin Yi, who was at the side, was extremely disappointed. Chapter 107. After confirming the troops, Ouyang Shua continued to arrange the logistics. Zhao Yufang. Here, the mountain roads are difficult to travel. The combat division needs to transport the supplies to the Mystic Bird tribe in advance. Yes, we will complete the mission. In addition, The combat division also needs to prepare some siege weapons. The attack on the checkpoint is likely to be a tough battle. We can't be careless. Ouyang Shua continued to order. Understood. Rest assured, sir. Zhao Yufang was full of confidence. We can't be careless with the medicine. There are many snakes and insects in the forest. We have to guard against them. The combat division needs to contact the medical center and prepare the appropriate medicine. It's best to consult the Mystic Bird Tribe's great shaman. He's an expert in this area. Ouyang Shua was very detailed. Yes. After arranging the logistics, Ouyang Shua continued, Song San. Here, the Military Intelligence Department needs to quickly gather information on the Gale tribe, including the terrain along the way. This is the first time Shanghai Town is fighting in the forest, so the intelligence work must be done properly. Rest assured, sir. Lung Xian has already led the first military intelligence team into the mountains to investigate. Very good. Zhao Sihu. Here, is the equipment for your 5 platoons ready? Reporting, sir. 2 archer platoons have been equipped due to the abundance of bows and arrows we've seized. It's just 2 crossbowman platoons. Because crossbows are rare to begin with, and because the bow and crossbow division works through the night, we've only equipped 1 platoon. Zhao Sihu said awkwardly. Ouyang Shua shook his head and said with a frown, How can we fight without equipment? Zhao Sihu panicked. He was afraid that Ouyang Shua would leave the city defense camp behind. He quickly said, Sir, I suggest that the remaining crossbowman platoon be equipped with bows and arrows. They can still fight. Ouyang Shua glared at him and berated, Nonsense. Do you think fighting is like playing house? These soldiers have never received archery training. Even if they are equipped with bows and arrows, it's just a pile of scrap metal. Moreover, the firing cycle of the crossbow is much longer than that of the arrows. We need at least 2 platoons to form a smooth attack. Zhao Sihu immediately turned from a tiger to a cat after being glared at by Ouyang Shua. Then what should we do? Fortunately, Ge Hongliang came to his rescue. He stood up and said, Sir, this subordinate has a suggestion. Please speak. According to my understanding, the 1st platoon of the cavalry battalion was originally made up of crossbow cavalry that had been transferred through the commander's seal. They were equipped with crossbows. Therefore, this subordinate suggests that we can lend the crossbow machines of the cavalry battalion's 1st squadron to the city defense battalion's crossbowman squadron. Ge Hongliang said, All right, we'll do as you say. Ouyang Shua was overjoyed. After Ouyang Shua finished making the arrangements, Ge Hongliang added, Sir, while the War Preparedness Division and the Military Intelligence Division are busy, the infantry camp and city defense camp cannot remain idle. I suggest that the 2 battalions should be stationed in Pool Town tomorrow morning. For the next few days, we will be training in the mountains and forests south of Pool Town. Ouyang Shua nodded and said, Division Chief Ji's suggestion is very good, but we can't forget about the Wolf Mountain garrison. How about this? The infantry battalion and the city defense battalion might as well take a step further and directly enter the Wolf Mountain mine. We can train together with the Wolf Mountain garrison so that we can familiarize ourselves with each other in advance and avoid confusion when the time comes. At the mention of the Wolf Mountain garrison, Ouyang Shua thought of something. He turned to Zhao Yufang and said, The War Preparedness Division will prepare another batch of weapons and equipment for the Wolf Mountain garrison. Yes. All right, go and prepare. Ouyang Shua said at last. Yes. 20th of April. In front of the Mystic Bird Tribe's village, the Infantry Battalion, City Defense Battalion, and Wolf Mountain Garrison had assembled. For this expedition, Ouyang Shua was personally in command, while Ge Hongliang was the military advisor. Soldiers, 5 days ago, the Cyclone Tribe attacked our Wolf Mountain mine for no reason and injured our compatriots. This is a declaration of war against Shanghai Town and all the major tribes. Shanghai Town will not tolerate this kind of provocation. A debt of blood must be paid in blood. Ouyang Shua shouted loudly. A debt of blood must be paid in blood. A debt of blood must be paid in blood. The soldiers responded in unison. Let's go. The majestic troops began to march towards the Cyclone Tribe. The infantry battalion was the vanguard, the city defense battalion in the middle, and the Wolf Mountain garrison at the back. Behind them were the supply troops, which were mainly made up of mountain barbarians from various tribes. At 4 in the afternoon, the troops arrived 3 kilometers away from the Cyclone tribe. Under Sher Wansue's guidance, the troops began to choose suitable places to set up camp. They were prepared to rest for the night and attack the next morning. In the central camp tent, Ouyang Shua summoned the 3 battalion commanders and the Military Intelligence Division to hold a pre-war military conference. Lung Xian, what's the situation with the Cyclone tribe? Did they notice our movements? Ouyang Shua first asked the Military Intelligence Division. Lung Xian stepped out and said, "Sir, everything is normal with the Cyclone tribe. There's nothing unusual." "Oh, how could this be? They attacked our Wolf Mountain mine. Could it be that they aren't worried about our retaliation at all? They didn't even take any precautions. Is there a trap?" Ouyang Shua found it hard to believe. Lung Qian hurriedly explained, "Sir, there's something you don't know. The mountain barbarian tribes often fought with each other because of the problem of hunting areas. Such a sneak attack was nothing out of the ordinary in the eyes of the mountain barbarians. As the only large tribe in this area, the Cyclone tribe regarded itself as the overlord. They didn't like the mystic bird tribe this time, so it was only natural for them to teach them a lesson when the hunting team went out to hunt. In addition, because of their arrogance, the Cyclone tribe didn't accept the great shaman's invitation last time. Therefore, these guys know nothing about our Shanghai town and don't understand our military strength. That's why they're so at ease." The Wolf Mountain Garrison's battalion commander, Stone Wolf, added, "That's right. In such a situation, small and medium-sized tribes like us dared not say anything even though we were angry. It's precisely because of this that we're so enthusiastic to support the Cyclone tribe when you're ready to teach them a lesson." Ouyang Shua nodded and said with a smile, "Good. It seems the heavens are on our side. Pass down the order to strengthen the vigilance at night and not underestimate the enemy. We'll strive to conquer the mystic bird tribe in one fell swoop tomorrow." Yes. The next morning, the troops began to cook. After breakfast, they immediately broke camp and advanced toward the Cyclone tribe. Looking at the checkpoint in front of him, Ouyang Shua was lost in thought. The entire checkpoint was 30 meters wide and 6 meters high, completely blocking the passage to and from the valley. The checkpoint was built with large blocks of stone and looked extremely magnificent. In the middle of the checkpoint was a 4-meter-wide wooden gate for people to enter and exit. The checkpoint's design was similar to that of a city wall, with many uneven battlements for archers to shoot and hide from. Ouyang Shua said to Gu Hongliang, who was standing at the side, "How do you think we should fight this battle, Division Chief Gu? It's not that we can't break through the checkpoint's defense force with the scaling ladders we brought, but the casualties will be quite high." This subordinate carefully observed the checkpoint and found that the checkpoint's gate doesn't have a more advanced suspension bridge design, but just a simple wooden gate. Therefore, this subordinate suggests that we should focus on a gate, said Gohongliang. Ouyang Shua nodded in agreement and said, "You're right. We only have so many assets, so we can't squander them as we please. It's just that it won't be easy to break through the gate. Once we show up, the other party will definitely notice it immediately and increase the number of soldiers guarding the checkpoint in a short time. They'll have a high vantage point, so it'll be very difficult for us to smoothly attack the checkpoint, and we'll also suffer heavy casualties." Gohongliang confidently said, "Don't worry, sir. According to the Intelligence Division's report, the other party's bows and arrows are the same as the other mountain barbarian tribes. They're the most primitive single wooden bows, mainly used for hunting, and their shooting range is less than 120 meters. But we're equipped with beginner compound bows, and our shooting range is close to 200 meters with light arrows, which is far beyond their shooting range. Our crossbows are even more impressive, with a shooting range of 300 meters. Therefore, we can adopt the long-range suppression tactic of the crossbows. As long as we stand 150 meters away and use our crossbows to suppress the enemy's defense force, they won't dare to show up. In this case, The infantry battalion can assault the checkpoint's gate under the tight protection of the shields and smash the gate open. Good. This is a brilliant plan. Ouyang Shuo applauded. With the plan settled, the powerful war machine began to operate quickly. The first to take the field was the City Defense Battalion. 150 meters away from the checkpoint, the first row was the Blade and Shield Battalion. This was the battalion with the most combat experience among the infantry. All of them were veterans of hundreds of battles and were at least at the 4th rank. The Blade and Shield Battalion's mission this time was to use the shields in their hands to form a defensive wall to protect the crossbowmen behind them. The 2nd and 3rd row were naturally the 2 archer battalions. They came from the mountain barbarian tribes, and Zhao Sihu had chosen them to be good archers with compound bows in their hands. Their combat strength was extraordinary. The last 2 rows were the crossbowmen battalions selected from the Shanghai town. Crossbows were easy to master, and ordinary people only needed 3 to 4 days of training to master them. The left wing of the City Defense Battalion was the infantry battalion in charge of this attack. 500 elite mountain barbarian soldiers. Although they weren't equipped with Tang sabers or infantry armor, they still couldn't be underestimated. The commander of this battalion was the bravest Shi Wansui in the Shanghai Town Army, and the 5 captains were also extraordinary. The right wing of the City Defense Battalion was the reserve force, the Wolf Mountain Garrison Battalion. Originally, Stone Wolf had strongly requested to be the main attacker, but Ouyang Shuo considered that the Wolf Mountain Garrison Battalion hadn't experienced a real bloody battle before. If this kind of battalion participated in this kind of battle for the first time, Ouyang Shuo wouldn't feel at ease. Chapter 108. When the troops of Shanghai Town appeared outside the checkpoint, the guard of the Swift Wind tribe were so shocked that their jaws almost dropped. Fortunately, they were well trained and immediately sounded the alarm. The urgent bell rang throughout the valley, causing a commotion. The tribesmen of the Swift Wind tribe walked out of their houses to find out what had happened. They were all terrified. When the guard ran in to report, the chief of the Swift Wind tribe, Huan Tai, had just woken up. He shouted, "Who sounded the alarm?" "Chief, a large number of troops have appeared in front of the checkpoint," the guard said in panic. "Troops? Which tribe are they from? How many of them?" Huan Tai was shocked and asked hurriedly. "The flag of the enemy doesn't belong to any tribe, and I don't know where they came from. Roughly speaking, there are at least 1,000 of them. They are well equipped, and they don't look like tribal hunting teams, but more like the Imperial Army." "Imperial Army? Oh no, it's the army of Shanghai Town." Huan Tai was still somewhat knowledgeable and immediately reacted. He shouted, "Gather the hunting teams immediately, and all of them will be stationed at the checkpoint to defend." Damn it. Yes. The hunting team of the Swift Wind tribe had a total of 800 people. Usually, only 200 of them were stationed at the checkpoint at the entrance of the valley, while the remaining 600 stayed in their houses. They would only gather together when they went out to hunt. Therefore, it was not easy to gather a team quickly. Huan Tai gathered the team while comforting his tribesmen. When 400 people were gathered, Huan Tai did not want to wait any longer. He was very worried that the garrison would not be able to withstand the attack of Shanghai Town. Huan Tai decided to take these 400 people to the checkpoint as reinforcements, leaving his deputy, Huanan, to wait for the rest of the hunting team. In front of the checkpoint, the Shanghai Town was the first to attack. Relying on the advantage of the range, the crossbowmen of the city defense camp shot wave after wave of arrows at the checkpoint, suppressing the guards on the other side. Although they did not cause too much damage because of the protection of the battlements, the guards on the other side did not dare to show their heads. The people of the Swift Wind tribe could only watch helplessly because they were limited by the range of the wooden bows. They could not fight back, which was very uncomfortable. After suppressing the guards, Ouyang Shuo ordered the infantry battalion to attack the gate of the checkpoint. The soldiers carried the thick battering rams and raised their shields over their heads as they quickly rushed towards the checkpoint. At this moment, the guards at the checkpoint finally reacted. Seeing that the enemy was about to reach the foot of the checkpoint, at this critical moment, They could no longer care about the rain of arrows from the opposite side and began to counterattack. In fact, the hunting team was not completely defenseless. After all, they had the geographical advantage. Once they discovered that the infantry battalion was attempting to approach the checkpoint, they would fearlessly launch a counterattack. None of them were afraid of death. Braving the rain of arrows, they would throw down rolling logs and stones, stubbornly repelling the infantry battalion's attacks. Finally, the first group of reinforcements led by Huan Tai arrived at the checkpoint. Huan Tai's arrival quickly stabilized the army's morale. They began to organize an even more ferocious defense. Rolling logs and rocks rained down without any regard for their lives. Ouyang Shuo frowned as he looked at the ever-increasing number of guards. He turned to Gu Hongliang and said, "This won't do. If this stalemate continues, the city defense camp won't be able to suppress them. Pass down my order the entire infantry battalion to attack. This time, we must take down the main gate at all costs." The last sentence was directed at the messenger. "Yes." The messenger at the side immediately turned around and left. After Shi Wansui received the order, his expression turned ferocious as he said loudly, "Brothers, his lordship has been watching our performance. As the main attacking force, it has been so long and we still haven't taken down Amir Gate. This is simply a disgrace to the infantry battalion. Those bastards from the Wolf Mountain garrison camp can't sit still anymore. They've asked his lordship for permission, saying that they want to replace us as the main attacking force. Can you bear this humiliation?" "We can't." The soldiers roared loudly. "If we can't bear it, then what should we do?" Shi Wansui's voice resounded through the entire battalion. "Take down the main gate and defend our honor." The crowd was in high spirits. "Good, this is the determination we need. Listen to my order, the entire infantry battalion will attack. If we can't take down the main gate this time, then don't live to see his lordship again. I, Shi Wansui, can't afford to lose this face." Shi Wansui roared. "Attack!" Shi Wansui personally took the lead, completely arousing the soldiers' courage. The soldiers of the infantry battalion carried thick battering logs and raised their shields over their heads, forming a dense defense line. Braving the falling logs and the rain of arrows, they fearlessly rushed to the foot of the checkpoint. Half an hour later, under the relentless assault of the infantry battalion, the main gate of the checkpoint was finally taken down. Ouyang Shuo decisively ordered the Wolf Mountain garrison camp on the right flank to charge into the valley together. The city defense camp at the back continued to suppress the enemy, advancing slowly. With the main gate broken, the entire checkpoint was immediately in danger of being lost. The soldiers of the infantry battalion gathered their courage and roared as they rushed up the checkpoint, determined to start a bloody battle with the Swift Wind tribe's hunting team. The Wolf Mountain garrison camp that followed up took over the task of defending the main gate. They just happened to fight with the Swift Wind tribe's hunting team that had rushed over as reinforcements. As the saying goes, when enemies meet, their eyes turn especially red. Stone Wolf roared loudly, "Kill them!" As he spoke, he was the first to rush up and engage in close combat with the hunting team. The 500 people of the Wolf Mountain garrison camp faced the 200 people of the hunting team led by Huanan. In addition, the Wolf Mountain garrison camp had an advantage in equipment, so the situation was quickly controlled by the Wolf Mountain garrison camp. Seeing that they could not resist, Huanan had no choice but to lead his troops to surrender. On the checkpoint, the Swift Wind tribe was constantly losing ground under the fierce attack of the infantry battalion. These hunting teams that usually only knew how to hunt were no match for the regular army. While leading his troops to resist, Huan Tai shouted loudly, "Are you the troops of Shanghai Town? Why are you attacking us for no reason?" Shi Wansui grinned and stabbed an enemy to death with his spear. He roared, "Haha, what a joke! You attacked our Wolf Mountain mine and still dare to act as if nothing happened. Today, I will destroy your tribe." At this time, Ouyang Shuo just climbed up the checkpoint and heard their conversation. He said loudly, "Huan Tai, order your people to put down their weapons and surrender. I can spare your lives." "Humph, there is no coward in our Swift Wind tribe. We would rather die than surrender. Huan Tai said stubbornly. Really? Fine, you can pretend to be a hero, but I want to see how those old, weak women and children in the valley can pretend to be heroes. Ouyang Shua said mockingly. Hearing Ouyang Shua's words, the hunting team behind Huan Tai suddenly became restless. They thought that their families were still in the valley. If they died in battle, then their families would become lambs waiting to be slaughtered. You are shameless. Seeing that Ouyang Shua easily dispelled the hunting team's will to resist, Huan Tai said angrily. A wise man submits to circumstances. Huan Tai, I don't want to say it again. Give up resistance, and I will spare your lives. Otherwise, don't blame me for not showing mercy. Ouyang Shua said coldly. Ai. Huan Tai sighed and put down his weapon helplessly. After disarming the hunting team, Ouyang Shu ordered the infantry battalion to guard the captives. At the same time, he ordered the Wolf Mountain garrison to enter the valley and gather the people of the Swift Wind tribe together. In the meeting hall of the Swift Wind tribe, Chief Gu, how are the casualties of the army? Ouyang Shua asked with concern. In reply to your excellency, a total of 20 people died in battle, 35 were seriously injured, and 60 were lightly injured. Ouyang Shua's face was solemn as he said, the casualties are still quite high. The military office needs to properly deal with the aftermath of the fallen soldiers and properly arrange for the seriously injured soldiers' jobs and living security after they retire. At the same time, we need to timely replenish the soldiers. In my opinion, the military office can now start to consider the issue of the reserves. Understood. This time, we didn't get any benefits from attacking the Swift Wind tribe. They're all so poor that they're no different from the refugees in the wilderness. What a great loss. Ouyang Shua said with regret. At least, we have established our prestige in this area. In my opinion, when the news of us attacking the Swift Wind tribe spreads, the surrounding small and medium-sized tribes will take the initiative to cooperate with us. Gu Hongliang said comfortingly. Then we can only understand it this way. Your Excellency, how do you plan to deal with the Swift Wind tribe? Gu Hongliang asked. Escort them all back to the territory. Take those that can be taken away, and leave the rest here. Ouyang Shua said helplessly. He didn't have a better solution. It was impossible to let them go after such a huge sacrifice. It was better to escort them back to replenish the population of the territory. Seeing Gu Hongliang's troubled expression, Ouyang Shua said with a smile, if you have something to say, just say it. Yes, this subordinate has just observed this valley. This valley covers an extremely large area, and the Swift Wind tribe only occupies a very small area. The valley is lush with water and grass, and even better, there's a lake that is very suitable for grazing. Therefore, what I mean is that we can completely transform this valley into a horse farm. You also know that Friendship Town is still in the process of constructing its infrastructure. Even if the construction is completed, it is still very risky to build a horse farm outside the city, and we will face the threat of nomadic tribes at any time. On the contrary, it is not as good as this place where there are few people. As long as we arrange a platoon to guard the checkpoint, we can rest easy. Gu Hongliang said. Ouyang Shua nodded and said, what you say makes sense. However, this place is far from the main camp, and the mountain roads are difficult to traverse. There will be many difficulties. Your Excellency, as long as we can successfully build a military horse farm, it will be worth it to expend some manpower and resources to repair the road from the Blackbird tribe to the valley. Gu Hongliang continued to persuade. All right, we'll do as you say. Ouyang Shua finally made up his mind and said, the military office should properly communicate with the chariot office and prepare for the early stages. After we return this time, it is also time to consider the matter of contacting the nomadic tribes. It is not a good idea to continue dragging this out. Understood. Chapter 109. On the 23rd of April, the army returned to Shanghai town with nearly 5,000 captives. When they evacuated from the valley of the Swift Wind tribe, there was a small incident. When the great shaman of the Swift Wind tribe learned that their tribe had been conquered, he did not want to be captured and committed suicide by poison in the ancestral temple. Hearing the news of the great shaman's suicide, the Swift Wind tribe was in an uproar again. It looked like the mountain barbarians were going to rise up again. In order to appease these mountain barbarians, and at the same time considering the impact on the surrounding mountain barbarian tribes, Ouyang Shua specially stayed in the valley for another day to hold the great shaman's funeral. This action, to a large extent, removed the hatred that the ordinary mountain barbarians of the Swift Wind tribe had for Shanhai Town. Just as Gu Hongliang had expected, after learning that the Swift Wind tribe had been conquered by the army from Shanhai Town within a day, the surrounding 2 medium-sized tribes and 6 small tribes immediately sent people to contact the great sorcerer of the Mystic Bird tribe, hoping that he would mediate and express their goodwill. Imperceptibly, the Mystic Bird tribe replaced the Swift Wind tribe and became the decision-maker in this area. This made the tribe leader, Shi Xiong, extremely pleased. He admired the great shaman's decision at that time. Seeing that Shi Xiong was getting carried away, the Grand Wizard had no choice but to come forward and remind him that the Mystic Bird tribe's current status was all because of the Shanhai Town's support. He must not get carried away and neglect the other tribes, which would affect the Shanhai Town's plans. With the Grand Warlock's reminder, Shi Xiong came to his senses. In order to express their gratitude to Shanhai Town, they sent 2 pairs of hummingbirds to show their respect. Ouyang Shua was extremely satisfied with Shi Xiong's tactfulness. These hummingbirds were all given to the Military Intelligence Department by Ouyang Shua. He also told Song San that if possible, it would be best to learn the secret method of breeding hummingbirds from the Mystic Bird tribe and further expand the number of hummingbirds. These little things were secret weapons for collecting and transmitting intelligence. If used properly, they could rival a battalion. After returning to Shanhai Town, the surviving 600 members of the hunting squad were all disarmed and sent to serve in the iron mine for 2 years. After the end of his service, he would regain his status as a free citizen of Shanhai Town. In this way, the number of miners in the iron mine reached 1,000, and it was upgraded to a high-level iron mine. As the armor workshop and bow and crossbow division gradually got on the right track, the demand for iron ore increased. This batch of captives could be put to good use. These members of the hunting squad had their hands stained with the blood of the Mountain Sea Town soldiers. Naturally, Ouyang Shua wouldn't let them off so easily. Sending them to the iron mine was precisely to wear down their hostility and physical strength. He had specifically told the head of the iron mine that the conscripts only needed to have 3 meals a day to ensure that they had enough to eat. Of course, the most basic human rights were still required. They could not beat or scold them at will. Otherwise, they would not be forgiven. Previously, Gu Hongliang had even suggested to select a portion of these 600 people to replenish the infantry and city defense battalions, but it was rejected by Ouyang Shua. In any case, with those new tribes expressing their goodwill, there was no need to worry about not having good quality infantry soldiers. There was no need to use these unstable elements. The remaining 4,000 people were arranged by Ouyang Shua to go to the Northern Twilight Saltworks to begin the final phase of construction. After the completion, the Northern Twilight Salt Field will reach a saturated area of 10,000 mu. The sudden influx of 4,000 people directly pushed North Sea Town to the scale of a level 3 town. After the basic construction was completed, it could immediately be promoted. Ouyang Shua had also considered whether he should leave these 4,000 people in the Shanhai Town's base camp and use this to achieve the full population of 10,000 people. However, it was not a simple matter to promote to a level 1 county. Firstly, the political, economic, cultural, and military index had to reach at least 45 points, and Shanhai Town already met the requirements. More importantly, the feudal lord needed to apply to the system in advance to promote to a level 1 county. After the basic conditions were met, the system would arrange for a large scale of bandits to attack the player's territory 3 days later. Only by successfully defending the territory would they be able to successfully promote. This kind of application was not unlimited. If they failed, they could only apply again after half a month. If they failed 3 times in a row, then the territory would permanently lose the right to be promoted. Thus, Ouyang Shuo would not act rashly before making sufficient preparations. After returning to the territory, Ouyang Shuo immediately summoned the construction division and the carriage office to make arrangements for the construction of the military horse farm in the valley. In addition to being responsible for repairing the road from the Black Bur tribe to Gale Valley, the construction division also had to modify the existing buildings in the valley according to the carriage office's requirements. Some buildings that could not be used were resolutely demolished. In addition, the checkpoint also had to be redesigned with a suspension bridge to increase its defensive capabilities. Ouyang Shuo told Zhao Duong to use as much of the mountain barbarians' labor force as possible. The mountain barbarians were absolutely willing as long as they were paid with food. Ouyang Shuo believed that after tasting the sweetness, the tribes would gradually eliminate their resistance toward Shanghai town and work with the town wholeheartedly. After resting for 3 days, Ouyang Shuo began to make adjustments to the camps. The City Defense Division occupied the high-class camp in the city and officially took over the responsibility of defending the city. The Construction Division built another high-class camp 20 miles west of the city and handed it over to the infantry camp. It was called the West Camp. The West Camp was located between the border of the territory and the headquarters, in charge of the security of the territory in the west. The west was where the main industries outside of the city were concentrated. Most of the mines, factories, and settlements were concentrated there. As for the cavalry camp, they were officially transferred to Friendship Town. Friendship Town built a high-class camp 10 miles north of the city for the cavalry camp. It was called the North Camp. The North Camp was like a nail pierced deep into the grasslands at the center of the valley, in charge of monitoring the nomadic tribes' every move. The day before the cavalry camp left, Ouyang Shuo called Lin Itu's office, and the two talked the whole afternoon. Other than Gu Hongliang, who was present at the time, no one else knew the specifics of the conversation. On the eve of Labor Day, several happy events happened in Shanghai town. Through the recruitment center, Ouyang Shuo recruited a high-class Taoist. His name was Guyen, 42 years old, and he looked like a sage. It was said that he was the descendant of Gu Hong from Eastern Jin. Not only was the man proficient in Taoist scriptures, but he was also a refiner and a master of medicine. He did have some of the elegance of celestial master Gu Hong. Gu Daozhong didn't choose to build a temple in the city. Instead, he used 3 to 4 days to walk around the territory. In the end, he chose a small hill 10 miles west of the city. The scenery there was beautiful, and it was a rare place. Feng Shui was mysterious, and Gu Daozhong was a master himself. There was a reason why he chose a place like this, and Ouyang Shuo didn't mind. The temple was a cultural building, and it helped raise the territory's culture index. As a result, Ouyang Shuo didn't take a single cent from the construction division and told them to build it according to Gu Daozhong's requirements. After the temple was built, with Gu Daozhong's help, the territory's culture index was directly raised by 5 points. After the temple was built, Gu Daozhong named it Qingyang Temple. He recruited 2 servants in the city, selected 4 orphans, and took them in as Taoist children. Then he left leisurely. The other 2 buildings in the third-grade town, the pawn shop and the inn, had been built long ago. With the current situation in Shanghai town, with the low-interest loans provided by the Bank of the Four Seas, the pawn shop was basically a decoration. Moreover, the residents of Shanghai town were basically refugees. They didn't have anything valuable that could be pawned in the pawn shop. Helplessly, the finance department arranged for a shopkeeper to temporarily take over the pawn shop. It was the same for the inn. Shanghai town was still a closed territory. No outsiders came to the town, and naturally, there were no guests staying in the inn. It was an overestimation to say that it was deserted. Therefore, no one was willing to take over the inn. Helplessly, the finance department could only temporarily manage it. To Ouyang Shuo's surprise, the jewelry shop didn't open after it was built. After learning about the situation, Ouyang Shuo especially went to find out the reason. When the truth was revealed, He didn't know whether to laugh or cry. It turned out that the territory didn't lack goldsmiths and silversmiths. The problem was that these craftsmen had skills, but they didn't have such a strong capital. In ancient times, metal jewelry was generally divided into three materials: gold, silver, and copper. All of these required high-purity gold, silver, and copper. Shanghai Town had just solved the problem of food and clothing, so no one had the ability to do so. After learning about the situation, Ouyang Shua immediately decided that the Lord's Mansion would take over the jewelry shop, and the profits would be used for the Lord's Mansion's daily expenses. Ouyang Shua immediately put in 100 gold coins. Through the magical function of the storage bag, they turned into pieces of high-purity gold, silver, and copper ingots. Because the jewelry shop belonged to the Lord's Mansion, Ouyang Shua specially selected a shopkeeper to be in charge of the jewelry shop. With Ying Yu's recommendation, he chose Ying Yu's maid, Si Qin, to be in charge of this matter. Si Qin had been by Ying Yu's side for a period of time. Under her influence, she also learned a lot about business. Ouyang Shua was relieved to let her take care of the jewelry shop. Another good news was about the colorful silkworms. After nearly 2 months of cultivation, the colorful silkworm breeding was finally on the right track. As Ouyang Shua expected, the first piece of silk made from the colorful silk was certified as the territory's specialty by the system and could be sold through the general store. In this way, Shanghai Town suddenly had 3 territorial specialties: 3-flower wine, white ginseng tea, and the colorful silk. As the saying goes, the rarer something is, the greater its value. A piece of colorful silk was sold for an astonishing 10 gold coins. It became the 3rd golden chicken in Shanghai Town that could lay eggs. After Ouyang Shua received the news, he immediately decided to expand the scale of the colorful silkworm breeding. The finance department directly provided a low-interest loan of 200 gold coins to upgrade the entire textile industry chain. In this process, the Textile Association gradually began to play its role. Chapter 110. On the 30th of April, it was time to sell sea salt again. The Northern Sunset Salt Works earned 3,600 gold coins a month. The Wolf Mountain Mine, another pillar of the territory, earned 8,500 gold coins a month because the number of miners increased to 5,000 in April, far surpassing the Northern Sunset Salt Works and becoming the territory's primary industry. In addition to the remaining 900 gold coins, Ouyang Shua had 13,000 gold coins in cash. This amount of money seemed huge, but after deducting the daily expenses, it wasn't that much that could be used. Ouyang Shua directly allocated 5,000 gold coins to the finance department for the territory's financial expenses. First was the military expenses. With the expansion of the army, the military expenses increased rapidly. Just the monthly salary alone was a huge expense. Since the territory's economy became prosperous, Ouyang Shua's soldiers' monthly allowance was increased tenfold. A rank 1 soldier could receive 10 silver coins a month, and so on. A rank 9 soldier could receive 90 silver coins a month. A squad leader received 1 gold coin a month. A platoon leader received 5 gold coins a month, and a battalion commander received 20 gold coins a month. Taking the cavalry battalion as an example, the average rank of a soldier was rank 4, and the salary of an ordinary soldier was 180 gold coins a month. With the addition of 50 squad leaders, 5 platoon leaders, and a battalion commander, the cavalry battalion salary was 275 gold coins a month. The 4 regular battalion salary was 1,100 gold coin a month. In addition to the consumption of provisions, weapons, and equipment, the military expenditure was close to 1,400 gold coins a month. Second was the government's expenses. With the replenishment of the government staff, the government's expenses were also considerable. The government staff received 1 gold coin a month, the division chief received 10 gold coins a month, and the division chief received 25 gold coins a month. In addition to the office supplies and other expenses, the government's expenses were close to 500 gold coins a month. Then there was the public financial expenses. Due to the need to raise funds for the system auction, the construction department hadn't paid the workers for the four major infrastructure projects, which are the City Wall and Moat Project, the Territory Project, the Friendship Town Project, and the Road Project. On average, a craftsman's salary was 100 copper coins a day, and the labor expenses of the four major infrastructure projects alone amounted to 1,000 gold coins. Of course, the project expenses were one-time expenses and not every month. Apart from that, there were also lumberyards, quarries, and mines, military industries such as the armor workshop, bow, and crossbow workshop, and military industries such as the archery workshop, as well as brick kilns, pottery factories, shipyards, pastures, and other industries that belong to the territory. With the rapid expansion of the scale, the monthly wage expenditure had already reached more than 1,500 gold coins. This was especially so for a military industry like the Jiao workshop. The people they recruited were all precious and skilled people. They could not afford to pay them too low. Apprentices received 30 silver coins per month. Beginner skill talents received 1 gold coin per month. Intermediate skill talents received 5 gold coins per month, and advanced skill talents received 10 gold coins per month. Finally, there was another big item, and that was basic welfare expenses. The basic benefits included 100 units of food coupons, 20 units of meat coupons, a piece of fur, a set of ordinary linen clothes, and a voucher worth 20 silver coins, which was around 32 silver coins. Even though a large portion of the funds came out of the treasury's left hand and came in with the right, each refugee still cost around 15 silver coins. The base spawned 75 refugees every day, which was 1,125 silver coins. That was around 340 gold coins per month. With the addition of the 3 subsidiary territories, it would be an investment of over 1,000 gold coins per month. These were only the 5 main expenses. This did not include education, public health, and other financial expenses. In April, the treasury's revenue was less than 1,000 gold coins. If not for the support of the North Twilight Salt Works and the Wolf Mountain Mine, the treasury would have collapsed long ago. Since the privatization was implemented in February, these financial expenses had been vague. Not to mention February, when the privatization had just started. At that time, the scale of the privatization wasn't as large as it was now. In March, the financial crisis was slowly becoming apparent. However, in order to raise funds for the auction, Ouyang Shua had been suppressing this matter. In April, the territory's financial situation started to improve, and there weren't any large additional expenses. Only then did Ouyang Shua start to gradually formalize these expenses. At the same time, he made up for the arrears of the previous 2 months. It could be said that the privatization of Shanghai Town would only be completed in April. In the first 2 months, there were many traces of the planned economy. Without the support of the Wolf Mountain Mine, Ouyang Shu wouldn't have the confidence to push this matter forward with just the North Twilight Salt Works. Now, the salary level of the various personnel in Shanghai Town was relatively close to the salary level of the royal city. What was a foundation? This was a foundation. While the other territories were still eating from the same pot, Shanghai Town had already begun to implement the privatization strategy. When more than 80% of the territory could only afford to eat, the income of the residents of Shanghai Town was already on par with that of the royal city. Of course, Ouyang Shua didn't do this just to hide wealth from the people. His deeper purpose was to use the huge advantages of Shanghai Town in the early stage to increase the income of the residents and the consumption level of the territory. This would stimulate the rapid development of the territory's economy. Only when everyone had spare money would they be willing to buy meat to eat, new clothes to wear, go to restaurants to eat, and buy jewelry for the women at home. All of these complemented each other. The huge investment today was for a greater return tomorrow. Only by making the cake bigger could he really raise the territory's tax revenue. Ouyang Shua's ultimate goal was to rely on the territory's tax revenue to support a huge financial expenditure and support a huge army in the future, even without the North Twilight Salt Works and the Wolf Mountain Mine. In any case, no matter how good a golden hen was, there would be a day when it would dry up. The Wolf Mountain mine would be emptied one day, and the income of the North Twilight Salt Works would become insignificant in the future. People who didn't think far ahead would have immediate worries. Ouyang Shua didn't want to be a short-sighted lord who only knew how to lie on a mountain of gold and count money. After deducting the money that he had transferred to the Finance Bureau, Ouyang Shua still had 0 gold coins in his hands, which was still a huge sum. Of course, he wasn't going to let this money sit idle. Ouyang Shua rushed to the intermediate market and spent 200 gold coins to buy an advanced market building blueprint. He was going to upgrade the market to the advanced level and open the cooperation platform. Only by opening this cooperation platform could Shanghai town trade weapons and equipment with White Birch and other allies. Next, Ouyang Shua clicked on the special item column and searched for secret manuals. Other than the 3,000 gold coins he kept as a reserve, he planned to use the remaining 4 gold coins to stock up on authentic secret manuals. There were countless secret manuals below King grade on the market. Regardless of whether they were real or fake, a bronze grade secret manual cost 50 silver coins, a black iron grade secret manual cost 2 gold coins, a silver grade secret manual cost 10 gold coins, and a gold grade secret manual cost 50 gold coins. The Yu Maiden swordsmanship that Ouyang Shua had given Song Jia was an authentic gold secret manual. As for secret manuals that were gold and above, they were very rare. King-level secret manuals would occasionally appear, but Emperor-level secret manuals were basically non-existent. As for God-level and Saint-level secret manuals, they couldn't be bought through the market. Ouyang Shua was hoarding authentic secret manuals, so he was naturally going for the premium route. Therefore, he only paid attention to gold-level secret manuals. To his surprise, when he was looking for authentic gold-level secret manuals, he was lucky enough to find an Emperor-level spear technique secret manual, the Yang family spear technique, which was priced at 1,000 gold coins. Ouyang Shua bought it without hesitation and checked the secret manual's attributes. Name: Yang family spear scripture, Emperor-level technique, routine. Big Drunken Spear / Flower War Spear / 17 War Spear / Army War Spear / Pear Blossom 8 Mother Spear / Chun War Spear / Little Drunken Spear moves. White Snake Spitting Tongue / Swallow Snatching Nest / Flood Dragon Emerging from Water / Azure Dragon Landing / Black Dragon Swinging its Tail / Carp Escaping from Hooks / Yiksha Exploring the Sea / Evil Tiger Pouncing on Deer / Little Boy Embracing Heart / Flame Piercing Cloud / Black Dragon Entering Hole / Evil Wolf Ripping Heart / Iron Ox Plowing Field etc. Ultimate Move Throat Locking Spear / Back Thrust Weapon Yang Family Pear Blossom Spear Evaluation Yang Family Spear Full name Yang Family Pear Blossom Spear. It is said to be a spear technique created by Yang Miaojin, the wife of Li Quan, the leader of the Red Coat Army in the late Southern Song Dynasty. The Yang family spear techniques were renowned in the world. The front hand was straight and the back hand was hard. Go like an arrow, return like a thread, quick hands and quick eyes. He brandished his spear, dazzling everyone's eyes. The throat-locking spear was unstoppable. A sudden thrust was hard to guard against. The strange mantis flips over. The pear blossoms cover the top. The oolong overturns the river on the beach. The embroidered girl shuttles back and forth to the sun and moon. The golden gate opens, and the stone opens to snatch Zhongwan. If you want to know the name and surname of this spear, the 7 suns and 8 tigers guard the border. The Yang family spear technique was considered the #1 spear technique in the martial arts world. Because it swayed like a pear blossom when it was brandished, it was also called the pear blossom spear. In the Ming Dynasty, Qi Jiguang pointed out in the Jishao New Book that the Yang family spear technique was unpredictable and infinitely divine. After obtaining this secret manual, Ouyang Shua finally had a spear technique secret manual that he would specialize in. Emperor-level secret manuals were extremely rare. In his previous life, there were only a few God-level secret manuals. As for Saint-level secret manuals, they were even more of a legend. No one had ever seen them. It was not an easy task to master a genuine Emperor-level secret manual. The ancient people who practiced spear techniques had to start from a young age. After years of hardship and guidance from a famous teacher, they were able to master it. Players were just using the virtual network technology to get by. If Ouyang Shuo hadn't practiced the great spear stance for nearly 4 months, he probably wouldn't even be able to get started. Apart from the Yang family spear technique, which was the only emperor-level secret manual, Ouyang Shuo hadn't encountered any other satisfactory genuine secret manuals. He hadn't even found a king-level secret manual. Ouyang Shuo had no choice but to use his remaining 3 gold coins to buy 76 genuine gold-level secret manuals. He had almost wiped out all the genuine secret manuals on the market. You're tuning into the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.